Chapter 405. Outside the spatial gate, countless cultivators were stunned. After a moment of shock, they all revealed looks of excitement. Someone had actually stepped forward to testify for them. Didn't they know that doing so was the same as slapping the immortal sect in the face? This was going to be fun. If the immortal sect cultivators couldn't properly handle this matter, then once everyone returned to the land of divinity and demons, news of this matter would spread out in less than 2 days. At that time, it wouldn't be as simple as losing face. Panic flashed in Maidu's eyes as he screamed, "Who are you? How dare you slander my immortal sect?" Yubai shouted out, "Fellow Taoist, do you know what you are doing right now?" Feng Yunyun's face turned even paler, and a trace of fear appeared in her eyes. However, she eventually calmed down and said, "Since I came out to testify, I naturally know what I said." She lifted a hand and pointed. This immortal sect disciple is called Maidu. He relied on his cultivation to steal the treasure we found. When fellow Taoist Qin Yu appeared and asked him, he directly attacked. After that, fellow Taoist Qin Yu wanted to leave, but Maidu ordered the Tao protector and protector to use the myriad submission secret art. Fellow Taoist Qin Yu was forced to resist, and that was how he managed to injure the two. I saw it with my own eyes. There is no falsehood in my words. Mita became even more terrified. "Nonsense. I don't even know you. Speak. Why did you help Qin Yu commit perjury?" "Senior brother Wenren, this woman is lying." Wenren Dongyue frowned, dark clouds gathering in his heart. Yubai cupped his hands together. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, just this woman's words alone aren't enough to be trusted. How about we ask her companions, and the truth will naturally be revealed?" Wenren Dongyue slowly nodded. "Yes." His eyes fell. "Everyone, please speak the truth." "What is the truth?" His words clearly expressed his attitude. The eyes of the surrounding immortal sect cultivators flashed with a cold light. If these people were to speak any nonsense, the reputation of the immortal sect would be tarnished and none of them would be able to escape punishment. Su Wenze and the others turned even paler, their eyes filled with fear. Yubai suddenly raised his hand and pointed. "Fellow Taoist, please speak." The chosen cultivator's legs went soft, and he almost fell to the ground. I. He glanced at Feng Yunyun, his face filled with shame. "I don't know," Yubai shouted. "What do you mean I don't know? You just need to tell me if this woman is telling the truth or not." The cultivator's lips squirmed for a long time. Fake. Yubai's eyes lit up with joy. He looked towards the second cultivator. "Tell me, is it true or false?" "It's fake." The others did not wait for him to ask and nodded, indicating that Feng Yunyun was giving false testimony. Feng Yunyun's face paled. "You shameless!" Yubai roared, "Shut up! You woman, you dare to slander a disciple of the immortal sect and damage the reputation of the immortal sect? This is a crime that cannot be forgiven." As he approached, Protector Li moved to block him. "Fellow Taoist, my family's young miss is a direct descendant of the Southern Peace Phone clan and has some relationship with the immortal sect. I ask that fellow Taoist be magnanimous and spare her this time." Yubai frowned slightly. The Southern Fongs might not have a resounding reputation, but they had a long history and a deep foundation. They were definitely not to be trifled with. His footsteps came to a halt as he hesitated. Wenren Dongyue lightly said, "The name of the immortal sect cannot be disgraced by anyone." Yubai's eyes lit up, revealing a dark intent. "Move aside." He lifted a hand and slapped outwards. Heaven and earth's spiritual energy boiled up. With a loud rumbling sound, a blue palm appeared. This was also one of the immortal sect's great secret techniques, called the Blue Sea Hand. It was created by an almighty being of the immortal sect and had an extremely formidable imprisoning ability. Protector Li clenched his teeth. He lifted a hand and took out a tree root. He poured magic power into it, and it began to wildly grow. In the blink of an eye, it wove into a thick wall of roots. "Humph, you overestimate yourself." Yubai shouted out, "Break for me." Bang! The thick wall of roots lasted for a breath of time before it was shattered by the blue hand. Protector Li spat out a mouthful of blood and his body swayed. But he didn't retreat, standing in front of Feng Yinyan. Yubai coldly sneered. Since you want to die, then I will help you. The blue hand moved even faster, its momentum astonishing. Su Wen's aside. He lifted a hand and took out an old piece of paper. It was unknown how many years it had been stored for, but the edges were curled up and the entire paper was beginning to turn yellow. But the moment this old paper was thrown out, the ink on it dimmed, and the faintly dissipating characters suddenly erupted with endless golden light. Within this golden light, a figure appeared. This figure wore loose clothes and a blue scarf on his head. He had the style of a scholarly scholar. Although his face was blurry, his clear and bright eyes seemed to be able to see through all illusions in the world and reach straight to the heart. The illusory figure raised his hand and gently swiped forward. The hand of the sea blue suddenly paused, and then like a bubble, it quietly dissipated. Then, the phantom said in a soft voice, I wonder which junior of my family has offended you? I ask that you give me face and forgive him for the time being. After speaking, the phantom dissipated. The old paper that released endless golden light ignited on its own, turning to ashes in the blink of an eye. Yubai's pupils violently shrank. He looked at Su Wenza with astonishment, shock, and even a bit of hidden fear. Wenren Dongyue frowned for a moment before composing himself. He took a step forwards and cupped his hands together across his chest. So you're a descendant of Saint Wengong. Forgive me for my rudeness. Outside the spatial gate, the complexions of many people changed. Respect immediately appeared in their eyes. The land of divinity and demons had countless powerhouses. For the last tens of millions of years, many powerful existences had been born that dominated the world. But in terms of fame and prestige, no one could compare with Saint Wengong. It was rumored that Saint Wengong was originally a scholar. When he was 30 years old, he entered the Tao from Confucianism and truly stepped onto the road of cultivation. Afterwards, his progress was unstoppable. In just 1,000 years, he had become a supreme elder. Moreover, his supernatural powers were mysterious and unfathomable, most of them related to the Confucian school. His strength was incomparably formidable, and he became the most dazzling existence in the endless river of time. 70,000 years ago, a space tunnel suddenly appeared, connecting to the black demon region outside. Countless demons descended and tormented the world, causing countless lives to perish. There were even powerful demons that used blood sacrifices to summon the ancestral demons to descend and thoroughly occupy the land of divinity and demons. At this critical moment, Saint Wengong bravely stepped forward. Using his own death as the price, he displayed a supernatural sealing ability that had never been seen before. On that day, the phantoms of thousands of scholars appeared between the heavens and earth, all of them chanting Confucian poems. Their vast and boundless momentum spread through the highest heavens and 10th earth. Countless characters condensed in the void, erupting with a rainbow-colored divine light. In a single move, the descending channel was sealed away, severely wounding the ancestral demons and causing a massive number of demons to perish. Then, 3,000 years later, all sides in the land of divinity and demons took action to exterminate all the demons, announcing the end of this invasion from a different world. Saint Wengong had sacrificed himself to seal away the descending channel. This was the same as saving trillions of lives in the land of divinity and demons. Moreover, there were rumors that before Saint Wengong perished, he had broken through to the level of a supreme elder and reached a point where he transcended the boundaries of a world. Even if the land of divinity and demons really did fall, he could still bring his family and friends to other worlds. It was because of this that Saint Wengong's actions obtained the respect of all cultivators in the land of divinity and demons. Even the most arrogant and despotic demonic path cultivators would reveal expressions of admiration when they mentioned Saint Wengong. After Saint Wengong perished, his family rapidly declined. Now, even the direct bloodline inheritance had dissipated. Those that survived were mostly branch bloodlines. The various influences in the land of divinity and demons had an unwritten rule. All descendants of Saint Wungong's bloodline, as long as they didn't commit any monstrous crimes, could be pardoned. This was to express their gratitude to Saint Wungong for his sacrifice in the past. Su Wenza revealed a pained expression. This old paper was his only copy. Meditating on it every day had a considerable effect on his cultivation. "Thank you, young Master Su." Protector Li respectfully bowed, his eyes full of gratitude. Feng Yunyun supported him. She looked at Su Wenza and pursed her lips. "I thought you would be the same as them." Su Wenza forced a smile. "I indeed want to, but I can't just sit by and watch you be hurt." Feng Yunyun blushed red and lowered her head. Su Wenza's spirits rose, and the pain in his heart faded a little. Although he had used up this precious Saint Wungong scroll, if he could exchange it for Feng Yunyun's favorable impression, it would be worth it. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands together. "Fellow Taoist from the mortal sect, I was together with Miss Feng on that day. What she said about fellow Taoist Maidu was true." He paused for a moment and then said with a solemn expression, "On this point, I am willing to guarantee it with the name of Saint Wungong." Yu Bai's lips moved, but he didn't dare to speak again. Saint Wungong had an exalted status, and his bloodline descendants were extremely protective of his reputation. If Su Wenza dared to guarantee it with the name of Saint Wungong, that was enough to prove that what he said was true. From the ground, a middle-aged cultivator stepped forward. He said in a low voice, "Fellow immortal sect, I believe that fellow Taoist Su's words can be trusted." Another person stood up. "As a bloodline descendant of Saint Wungong, unless one's thoughts are pure, it is impossible to activate the scroll left behind by Saint Wungong. This proves that fellow Taoist Su isn't lying. I ask fellow Taoists from the immortal sect to clearly investigate this lest you are deceived by others." I believe fellow Taoist Su's words. More and more people spoke up. This was the influence of Saint Wungong. Even after 70,000 years had passed, it still hadn't faded. Maidu's face was deathly pale, and his eyes were filled with fear. He looked at Yu Bai, but Yu Bai's head was lowered, no longer communicating with him. He could feel the icy cold anger in the eyes of his fellow sect cultivators behind him. His heart chilled, and he felt even more regret. Wenren Dongyue took a deep breath. He solemnly said, "My immortal sect also deeply admires the name of Saint Wungong. But on that day, everyone involved in this matter had different opinions. Once my immortal sect investigates the truth, we will naturally announce the results to the public." He cursed this idiot Maidu countless times in his heart. He actually didn't know that he had provoked a bloodline descendant of Saint Wungong, causing them to fall into an embarrassing situation. Even so, it was impossible for him to admit that it was a disciple of the immortal sect who had framed Qinyu. If he used an investigation after the fact, he would naturally have a way to eliminate the effects of this matter in the future. His eyes swept over Qinyu. Although Wenren Dongyue's complexion didn't change, he secretly clenched his fists. Could it be that he could only watch helplessly as Qinyu approached Ningling? No, he absolutely could not. Wenren Dongyue turned slightly. He looked at Shui Yuanling, his lips moving. The woman's face stiffened, and she revealed a look of hesitation. But as Wenren Dongyue's eyes turned cold, she shivered and quickly nodded. Wenren Dongyue took a deep breath and calmed his fluctuating mood. What he did today was completely different from his cultivation method, and it would even affect his future cultivation to a certain degree. But he didn't regret it. Junior apprentice Sister Ningling's bloodline was the key to him becoming a supreme elder in the future. He couldn't allow any accidents to occur. Anyone that dared to approach her would be his mortal enemy. "Qinyu, I knew that the truth would be revealed." Ningling's face was full of joy. "It's good that you believe me." As Qinyu thought of Ningling's reaction, his heart surged with warmth. He looked up at Feng Yunyun and Su Wenza and nodded. Feng Yunyun curled her lips. "From now on, we don't owe you anything." As she finished speaking, she glanced at her several companions who had restless expressions. She coldly snorted and supported Protector Li away. Su Wenza bitterly smiled and followed. As for the remaining people, their faces turned the color of pig liver. They were embarrassed and filled with grief and indignation. They also felt wronged. Without the background of Feng Yunyun and Su Wanze, what could small characters like them possibly do in the face of such a powerful immortal sect disciple? Qinyu smiled. This Feng Yunyun was someone who dared to love and hate. He hoped that today's events wouldn't cause any trouble for her. Seeing that the storm was about to pass, Ningling began to think about how to ease the relationship between Qinyu and the immortal sect disciples. After all, no matter what the reason was, Qinyu had still offended them. If the two of them wanted to be together in the future, they would inevitably have to deal with them. At this time, there was a flash of light and a female cultivator appeared in front of her. Ningling was overjoyed. Senior apprentice, Sister Shui. That was right. Her best friend in the immortal sect was Shui Yuanling. She would introduce Qinyu to her first to ease the atmosphere. With senior apprentice sister's good relations in the sect, she should be able to make this matter much easier. Qinyu frowned. He looked at the female cultivator in front of him. This was the immortal sect woman he had rescued from the magic-devouring demon spider's jaws. His attention had been focused on Ningling, and he hadn't noticed her. On that day, this woman had clearly said that she didn't know Ningling, but from what he saw today, it was clear that she had lied. A foreboding premonition rose in Qin Yu's heart, and his complexion darkened. Shui Yuanling's eyes flashed with shame before turning into determination. She coldly said, "You scoundrel, I never thought you would dare to appear here today." Her face was filled with grief and indignation. Tears filled her eyes, and her body shivered. Ningling frowned. Senior apprentice Sister Shui, do you know Qinyu? Shui Yuanling's tears fell. Junior apprentice sister, do you remember when the sect disciples were gathering and I was delayed for a long time? You even asked me what happened. Ningling nodded. I remember. Shui Yuanling pointed a finger. On that day, I encountered a magic-devouring demon spider. At the critical moment, I was saved by someone, and the one who saved me was this Qinyu. Her complexion paled. I originally thought that this person was chivalrous and righteous, but I never imagined that after Qinyu saved me, he would take advantage of the fact that my magic power had been scattered to do evil things to me. I desperately resisted, and only then was I barely able to escape. Ningling's complexion changed. Impossible. Shui Yuanling bitterly smiled. Junior apprentice sister, don't forget what sort of law formula I cultivate. When I am seriously injured, I cannot suppress my aura at all. Moreover, does junior apprentice sister Ningling think that I wouldn't disregard my reputation and wrongly accuse this person for no reason? Ningling panicked. For a time, she didn't know what to say. She naturally knew that Shui Yuanling's cultivation method was a great temptation to men. It was fine if she restrained her aura normally, but once she didn't suppress it, it was enough to drive a man crazy. In addition, when Shui Yuanling lost the ability to resist, that would only fuel her crazy arrogance. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was ice cold. Junior apprentice sister Shui, are you sure the person you spoke of was Qinyu? Shui Yuanling fell to her knees. Even if that person turns to ashes, I will not mistake him for someone else. I ask senior apprentice brother to uphold justice for me. Bang! Wenren Dongyue's robes fluttered without wind. A terrifying aura erupted, overwhelming the world. Qinyu, how dare you? He lifted his hand. Light surged, causing one's heart to race. Ningling was startled awake. She spread out her arms and stood in front of Qinyu. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, don't. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, to dare to humiliate a female cultivator of the immortal sect, I must kill this person today. Junior apprentice sister Ningling, do you want to betray the sect? Ningling stiffened. Qinyu's eyes swept over Shui Yuanling, Wenren Dongyue, and all the other immortal sect disciples who were glaring at him with hatred, as if they wanted to tear him to shreds. The anger in his chest became increasingly hot, erupting like a volcano. He reared his head back and laughed. What a good immortal sect. It seems that seeing is believing 100 times. Do you really think that I can only be slandered and manipulated by you? Chapter 406. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was calm. He stepped forwards, his aura like a storm. As he circled around him, heaven and earth's spiritual energy stirred and rumbled. Very good. It's been a long time since someone has dared to openly provoke the immortal sect. His voice was calm, but every word he spoke was filled with a bone-chilling coldness. With a flick of his sleeves, a translucent golden phantom appeared, instantly covering Ning Ling. Wenren Dongyue said, "Junior apprentice, Sister Ning Ling, you had best stay inside. Don't make things difficult for me." Qin Yu's eyes turned cold as he saw that this light phantom was only imprisoning him and didn't have any intention of harming Ning Ling. He relaxed a little, but his complexion still turned frosty. Rumble! Massive black clouds gushed out from the skies of the infinite realm. As they tumbled about, an aura that left one's heart racing fell down. This was the warning that the power of the rules felt threatened. Wenren Dongyue was expressionless. He glanced at the dark clouds in the skies and then took out a small golden furnace. He tossed it into the air, and it instantly grew to several dozen feet. The inscriptions on its surface began to shine, and an invisible aura was released from the furnace, shielding it from the surrounding aura. Beneath the skies, the dark clouds seemed to hesitate for a moment before rapidly dissipating. Countless cultivators revealed looks of amazement. To casually take out a treasure that could conceal such a large area of space, he was truly worthy of being an unfathomably deep, immortal sect disciple. Many eyes fell on Qin Yu and began to reveal looks of sympathy. Although Wenren Dongyue hadn't made a move yet, the feeling he gave off was no different from that of a teacher. Moreover, this person definitely had some hidden cards in his hand. If he fought with all his strength, it would be even more astonishing. Qin Yu might not be weak, but how could he compare with the outstanding disciples of the immortal sect? But everyone was muttering to themselves. Why did the immortal sect disciples always target Qin Yu? Many people swept their eyes over Ning Ling and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. However, this was how the world was. The weak were prey to the strong, and the strong were respected. Since you were weak, you had no right to complain about the unfairness of the world. Qin Yu had a calm expression. He took a deep breath, and his heart began to vigorously beat. With just a thought, he could stimulate the power of the burning heavens. But at this time, Ning Ling's aura began to rapidly rise. She released a dazzling golden light, filled with dignity and honor. Junior apprentice Sister Ning Ling, stop. If you forcefully increase your strength, you will hurt yourself. Qin Yu shouted out loud, Ning Ling, I can deal with this. You don't need to do this. Ning Ling ignored their words. Soon, her aura reached its peak. It wasn't any weaker than Wenren Dongyue's. She raised her hand and pointed a finger forward. The light before her trembled violently before shattering into countless pieces like a mirror. Wenren Dongyue's eyes darkened as he looked at the shattered light screen. The killing intent in his heart rose even higher. Shua, Qin Yu instantly approached and carefully supported her. I already said that I can deal with it, so why are you still trying to be brave? At first, he had some complaints, but when he saw the smile on her face, all that was left was warmth and gratitude. Ning Ling's complexion was pale. She wiped the blood from the corners of her lips and said in a soft voice, I'm sorry, Qin Yu. I actually hesitated just now. With your personality, how could you possibly do something like taking advantage of others? She looked up and indifferently looked at Shui Yuanling. Senior apprentice Sister Shui. Although I don't know why you slandered Qin Yu. Since you did this, you and I are enemies from now on. Shui Yuanling stiffened and sadness filled her eyes. She never thought that Ning Ling would say such cruel and direct words. It could be seen just how much she valued Qin Yu. Today's events had thoroughly offended Ning Ling. As she thought of her special status in the immortal sect and her limitless future achievements, her heart became increasingly bitter. But with things having come to this point, it was impossible for her to turn back. She could only hope that senior apprentice brother Wenren would remember her contributions today and protect her in the future. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, Everything that Senior Apprentice Sister says is true. The human heart can change. I hope that you will not be deceived. Ningling's eyes became increasingly cold. She glanced at Shui Yuanling, but didn't reply. She turned to Wenren Dongyue and said, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, I believe that it is impossible for Qinyu to do such a thing. Ningling is willing to use her life as a guarantee for him. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, the evidence is conclusive. If I let him go, where would the prestige of the immortal sect go? Ningling was silent for several breaths of time. She slowly said, If that's the case, then I ask Senior Apprentice Brother to step over my corpse and then kill Qinyu. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were filled with decisiveness. Her aura that had fallen began to rise once more. Wenren Dongyue roared out, Continuously stimulating your bloodline will cause irreparable damage to you. You might even harm your bloodline itself. Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, do not make a mistake. Qinyu grabbed Ningling's hand, but beneath her gaze, he couldn't take the next step. Qinyu, you have done so much for me, but I have only blindly accepted it. Today, let me pay the price for you once. When you were so weak in the past, you were willing to risk your life for me. Do you think that Ningling can't do the same for you? She turned her head and coldly said, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, there is no need to speak any further. Today, no matter who it is, if they want to kill Qinyu, then they will have to kill me first. Wenren Dongyue could feel her increasingly powerful aura. He roared out loud, Good. I agree to give Qinyu a chance to prove himself. Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, if there is someone here who is willing to guarantee for Qinyu like you, then I will temporarily set aside this matter. I will investigate this matter in the future and let the sect deal with it. But if no one is willing to guarantee him, then you cannot stop me. However, I can guarantee you that I will only bring him back to the sect to be interrogated. I will not kill him today. Ningling was clearly moved. She looked at Qinyu. After a moment of hesitation, he slowly nodded. Tearing apart all pretense of cordiality with the immortal sect was the worst possible outcome. Moreover, with Ningling's status, she would be placed in a difficult position. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren. Ningling agrees. Ningling believed that Qinyu wouldn't make a decision so easily. Since he nodded, he should have confidence in himself. Wenren Dongyue's eyes brightened. Good. We have an agreement. His eyes swept around. Beneath the stimulation of his formidable strength, his voice spread far and wide. Fellow Taoists should have heard my agreement with Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling. Is there anyone who is willing to use their life as a guarantee for Qinyu? There is something I must say first. If you step forward to guarantee him, that is the same as willingly accepting all consequences. If the immortal sect investigates in the future and discovers any problems, then the guarantor will be punished the same as Qinyu. These words caused Ningling's heart to sink. After all, she hadn't personally experienced it. Besides Qinyu, who would dare to take such a risk? Although Wenren Dongyue's words were a threat, they weren't excessive. She was secretly anxious, but she couldn't say anything. There was silence. Wenren Dongyue revealed a smile. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by a voice. I am Tianyin from the Southern Overwatch Pass. I am willing to guarantee Qinyu. Several cultivators stepped out from the crowd. The one who spoke was Tianyin. Wenren Dongyue's eyes turned cold. Who are you, and what relationship do you have with Qinyu? Tianyin had a light expression. Central Mound Tian family. Whoosh! There was an uproar at the spatial gate. No one thought that they would run into a descendant of Saint Wengong today, but also someone from the Central Mound Tian family. They were different from Saint Wengong's noble character and unquestionable integrity, who sacrificed himself for the trillions of lives in the land of divinity and demons. The Central Mound Tian family was most famous for raising spirit plants. It was rumored that the Tian family had a moon-twining vine that originated from ancient times. After countless generations of painstaking cultivation, it had grown to the peak and had even undergone a mutation. Its strength was terrifying to the extreme, able to contend with almighty beings. Moreover, besides raising spirit plants, the Tian family's greatest reputation was for protecting their own. They had gone to war several times for their family disciples, causing heaven-shaking and earth-shattering commotion. Qin Yu revealed a look of surprise. He never thought that Tian Yun would have such a great background. He glanced over and nodded. Tian Yun smiled, his expression calm, as if he didn't fear Wenren Dongyue at all. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was icy cold. He was well aware that with Tian Yun's status, he didn't need to fear the immortal sect too much. This was because the central Mound Tian family was held in high regard by the Chu Empire's royal family, and in the boundless land of divinity and demons, the Chu Empire was the only super empire that had the confidence to contend with the immortal sect and demonic path. In the Chu Empire, if the immortal sect or demonic path wished to spread their teachings, they would first need to obtain the official approval of the Chu Empire. How hateful! This Qin Yu was clearly just a nobody from the land of exiles, and yet there were people standing up for him one after another, and each one of them had extraordinary statuses. Ning Ling happily said, "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, since there are people here to testify, I hope you will keep your promise." Wenren Dongyue coldly said, "Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, please rest assured that I will keep my word." His icy gaze fell. "Qin Yu, I will temporarily forgive you today. But once this matter is investigated, my immortal sect's law enforcement envoy will find you. In the heavens above, in the earth below, or even in the 9 nether realms, there will be nowhere for you to run." Qin Yu lightly said, "I have a clear conscience, so I naturally have no need to run." "Humph!" Wenren Dongyue coldly coughed, his heart filled with ruthlessness. With his status, when had he ever been humiliated twice by a single person? This Qin Yu absolutely could not be allowed to live. As he thought about how Ning Ling didn't hesitate to kill herself for him, Wenren Dongyue's heart filled with even more killing intent. Yu Bai clenched his jaws, his heart filled with unwillingness. But even senior apprentice brother Wenren had failed, so what could he do? In addition, with the example of Shui Yuanling in front of him and Ning Ling protecting Qin Yu, he didn't dare to attack again. Even if he was unwilling, he could only endure it. He had to endure it until he vomited blood in his heart. Yu Bai's eyes swept over Tianyan. It was all because of this bastard. If it weren't for him, how could Qin Yu have escaped? But he also couldn't provoke the Tian family. At this time, Yu Bai's eyes inadvertently swept over several figures beside Tianyan. One of them was a female cultivator who caught his attention. This female cultivator glanced at Qin Yu from time to time, her eyes filled with fear and unease, as if she were avoiding him. Although there were many possibilities in this situation, Yu Bai's intuition told him that this female cultivator definitely knew some secret. And this secret could completely strike down Qin Yu. It would be impossible for him to approach junior apprentice sister Ning Ling ever again. Yu Bai clenched his teeth and sent a sound transmission. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, please look at the female cultivator behind Tianyan." With Wenren Dongyue's intelligence, this warning was enough. As he calmly glanced over, his eyes flashed. Without warning, Wenren Dongyue took a step forwards and instantly appeared beside Tianyan. "Fellow Taoist Wenren, what is the meaning of this?" Wenren Dongyue lightly said, "I have no ill intentions, but there are some matters I would like to ask this fellow Taoist." Xiong Dailin panicked. She cursed at this immortal sect disciple. She didn't even have time to hide, and this person had actually come looking for her. She was finished. She was finished. This time she had definitely been discovered by that evil star. She looked up at Wenren Dongyue and discovered that his eyes were deep and boundless, like 2 spinning nebulas. She couldn't help but be lost in his gaze. Wenren Dongyue lightly said, "Fellow Taoist, I see that you should know Qin Yu. I wonder if you could tell me why you are so afraid of him?" Xiong Dailin trembled. She clearly recalled some terrifying memories. "Devil Apostle. He is a devil apostle. Don't kill me." Wenren Dongyue's eyes brightened. In the next moment, Xiong Dailin regained her clarity of mind. As she thought about what she had just said, her complexion paled. She had actually spoken of that evil star's greatest secret. This time she was really done for. Not to mention what would happen to Chinyu. But as long as he spoke of her identity, she would fall into a hopeless situation. What I used was my immortal sect's secret skill, the soul-questioning art. What I said came from the depths of my heart. There is no mistake. Wonrin Dongyue lifted a finger. Chinyu, you are actually a devil apostle. All cultivators of my land of immortal and demons have a duty to kill you. No wonder this nameless boy from the land of exiles was able to chase her all the way to the immortal sect, and even had such a strong cultivation today. Now, everything had an explanation. He had actually sold his soul and signed a contract with an abyssal demon in exchange for a formidable strength. This was truly an unintentional willow. He never imagined that with this attempt, he would actually find Qin Yu's life and death gate. Wenren Dongyue was filled with excitement. He was dead for sure. Tianyun's eyes widened as he looked at Xiong Dailin. He knew her true identity. Even if he didn't believe it, he couldn't help but be shaken. Could Qin Yu really be a devil apostle? Thinking back to the giant tribe's sacred lake and the formidable strength he displayed, Tianyun's complexion became complex. Chapter 407. Miss, you call me a devil apostle, but do you have any proof? I can't shoulder a great crime just because of a few words. Qin Yu slowly said. Xiong Yulin bit her lips. She looked at Qin Yu, her eyes full of fear and hesitation. Wenren Dongyue coldly coughed. The soul-questioning art couldn't be wrong, so he wasn't afraid that Qin Yu would lie. Miss, as long as you speak the truth, the immortal sect will guarantee your safety. Qin Yu nodded. That's right. It's fine as long as you speak the truth. Xiong Yulin didn't know what he was thinking, but she had no other choice. She clenched her teeth and said, Not too long ago, while I was on my way, I inadvertently met fellow Taoist Qin Yu. At that time, demonic energy billowed around him, and his body had begun to transform into a devil. Wenren Dongyue frowned. Once a devil transformation began, it was impossible to reverse it. Qin Yu was still a human, so this proved that what Xiong Yulin saw wasn't a devil transformation, so he naturally wasn't a devil apostle. Tianyun let out a breath of relief, a smile on his face. If Qin Yu really was a devil apostle, then his previous guarantee couldn't be justified. Su Wenze was even more relieved than him. This bloodline descendant of Saint Wengong wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, a look of joy in his eyes. In the past, the ancestral demon that was severely wounded by Saint Wengong was rumored to have come from the abyss. If Qin Yu really was a descendant of a devil, perhaps Su Wenze could only atone for his sins with death. Yu Bai said in a low voice, It isn't impossible for a devil transformation to maintain a human form. It is best to capture him and carefully examine him to avoid any accidents. Qin Yu revealed a taunting expression. Fellow Taoists from the mortal sect, are you talking about the descent of a devil? If I really am a devil avatar, then let alone capturing me and examining me, I fear none of you from the immortal sect will be able to escape. Yu Bai paled. Wenren Dongyue stopped him from speaking. He turned and looked behind him. Junior apprentice Brother Jing? Shua, this immortal sect cultivator had an ordinary appearance. When he opened his eyes, a faint halo of light flowed around them. His eyes were bright and sharp, as if they could pierce through all illusions. Reporting to senior apprentice Brother Wenren, this Qin Yu is indeed not a devil apostle. He doesn't have the aura of a devil on him, but, after a moment of hesitation, he apologetically looked at Ning Ling. Fellow Taoist Qin, you should have cultivated the demonic path's unsurpassed body tempering technique, the undying, true demon body. Moreover, he has already reached a higher level and has some achievements. Wenren Dongyue was startled. Then his eyes lit up with joy. Junior apprentice Brother Jing, is this true? The Jing cultivator looked up. The undying true demon body is extremely easy to distinguish. I don't think fellow Taoist Qin you would lie about this matter. Qin Yu nodded. In my early years, I did indeed cultivate a demonic path body tempering technique, but it was called the demon body. Wenren Dongyue smiled. So you were a disciple that was left behind by the demonic path. Fellow Taoist Qin, you hasn't been accepted by the demonic path yet, so it's normal that you don't know this. His smile became even more relaxed. He continued to say, demon body cultivation is roughly divided into 7 stages: lieutenant, major, general, commander, king, sovereign, and emperor. Depending on one's talent, their cultivation achievements are all different. There are many people in the demonic path who cultivate the demonic body, but only by reaching the king rank of the demonic body can one be considered to have truly reached the next level. Only then can one obtain the inheritance of the true demon's will and possess all sorts of inconceivable abilities. This is also why one has the qualifications to be called the immemorial true demon body. In the Devil Tao, anyone who steps into the immemorial true devil body level will directly become a direct descendant of the Devil Tao and obtain the title of Devil's Son. As he spoke to hear, he looked up at Wuma Sijan, who had been coldly watching from the sidelines. As he thought, Wuma Sijan's eyes twitched, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Qin Yu's heart sank. He didn't think that Wenren Dongyue would be so kind as to specifically explain matters regarding the immemorial true demon body to him. There was likely some deeper meaning that he didn't know about. He looked up at Ningling. Her face was deathly pale, and the despair in her eyes caused Qin Yu's heart to tremble. He quickly grabbed her hands and asked, Ningling, what is it? Before Ningling could reply, Wenren Dongyue shouted out, let go. His eyes darkened. You are the demon's son of the demonic path, yet you dare to approach the direct descendant of my immortal sect. Shut up, Qin Yu shouted out. He felt increasingly restless. A wild aura tumbled around him, and billowing black clouds appeared in the skies above his head. Wenren Dongyue had taken away the aura-shielding furnace, and the Infinite Realms rules were able to sense the fluctuations here once more. Wenren Dongyue's pupils shrank. Qin Yu had followed junior apprentice sister Ningling into the land of divinity and demons. In such a short period of time, he actually possessed such strength. The speed at which he grew was simply unimaginable. At this time, the spatial gate also let out a low cry. As they felt Qin Yu's wild aura, they instinctively revealed awe in their eyes. Ningling was stunned. She anxiously said, Qin Yu, stop. Qin Yu's breathing slowed down. He stared in her eyes and said, tell me, what secrets does the undying true demon body have? Ningling's tears flowed down. Her lips moved, but she didn't know what to say. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, Qin Yu, let me tell you the reason. In the land of divinity and demons, the immortal and demonic paths can peacefully coexist. But direct descendants are not allowed to privately interact with each other. Once discovered, that is the same as betraying the sect and is a capital crime. Junior apprentice sister Ningling, you should be well aware of what happened to your family in the past. My immortal sect will not tolerate this at all, so you must not make a mistake. Today, you will sever all relations with Qin Yu and return to the sect with me. I believe that the sect master and the elders will consider that you don't know the situation and won't severely punish you. Otherwise, no one will be able to save you. Qin Yu's heart sank. He had once heard Ningling vaguely mention some information about her life. If he verified it with Wenren Dongyue's words, it would be easy to find the crux of the matter. Ningling's mother was a direct female cultivator of the immortal sect, and her father was the demon son of the demonic path. Thus, her family was ruined, and she was sent to the land of exile, where she was called a wicked daughter. Qin Yu finally understood why her eyes were filled with despair. It was because of what happened to her family in the past, and she had linked it to the two of them. Looking at her pale face, pain gushed out from the depths of his heart. Qin Yu hugged her tightly and whispered in her ear, Ningling, don't be afraid. What happened in the past will not happen to you or me. Undying true demon body. I will strip off the demonic bloodline in my body and abolish this demonic path body transformation technique. Ningling's eyes widened. No, If the demon body is abolished, you will become a cripple and you will never be able to cultivate again. You cannot do this. Chinyu was silent for several breaths of time. He said, I don't believe that after my demon body is abolished, Chinyu, will become a cripple. At most, I will be a bit weaker. I fear that at that time, I will need senior apprentice sister Ning Ling to protect junior apprentice brother. Hearing the firmness in his words, Ning Ling's heart began to tumble like a raging tide. In this world, besides Chinyu, was there anyone who could do this for her? In that instant, Ning Ling made her decision. Chinyu, I will go with you. We will leave this place. Whether it is the immortal sect or the demonic path, we will live our own lives. Chinyu laughed. Good. Ning Ling, let's be together, never to be separated again. Wenren Dongyue's complexion darkened. He never imagined that things would develop to this step. Chinyu was willing to abolish his demon body for Ning Ling, and Ning Ling was willing to give up everything she had for him. The two of you truly loved each other to the extreme. Ning Ling, Wenren Dongyue roared out. You are a direct disciple of the immortal sect. Don't you know that this is the same as betrayal? I will never allow it. If you really want to do this, then I will not hesitate to pay any price to kill Chinyu here today. Chinyu's eyes were icy cold. He didn't care about this threat at all. Ning Ling bowed. This is the last time I will call you senior apprentice brother. She straightened herself, a resolute look in her eyes. Wenren Dongyue, if you want to kill Chinyu, then kill us as well. Wenren Dongyue was enraged. You! Blue veins popped out on his fists. He roared at Wuma Sijan. Do you demonic path people really want to stare on helplessly as a demon sun leaves? A strange light flashed in Wuma Sijan's eyes. He lightly said, Fellow Taoist Chinyu is yet to join the demonic path. Even if he successfully refined the undying, true demon body, he is still not a demon son of my demonic path. I naturally have no control over what he wants to do. Wenren Dongyue clenched his teeth. He knew that Wuma Sijan wanted to watch from the sidelines. He suppressed his anger, his thoughts rapidly racing. Chinyu was extremely strong, and he didn't rule out the possibility that he had some hidden cards. Even so, Wenren Dongyue still had full confidence that he could kill him. The key was Ning Ling. Her bloodline was far too formidable. If she deliberately suppressed it, his strength would be greatly affected. And most importantly, he didn't want to kill Ning Ling, nor could he kill her. Otherwise, no matter what reason he had, once he returned to the immortal sect, he would have to withstand the wrath of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Wenren Dongyue's eyes flashed. He said in a low voice, Junior apprentice, Sister Ning Ling, you betrayed the immortal sect and flew away with Chinyu. Do you no longer care about that person suppressed beneath Bitter Pagoda? Ning Ling's complexion changed, and a struggling look appeared in her eyes. Wenren Dongyue continued to speak, Junior apprentice, Sister Ning Ling, do you know that I've already asked teacher to plead for leniency for you in the Council of Elders? Soon, you will be allowed to enter Bitter Pagoda and visit that person. As long as you diligently cultivate, that person's life within Bitter Pagoda will become increasingly relaxed. In the future, if you can inherit Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, you can even pardon that person and regain your freedom. But, Junior apprentice sister, if you betray the sect today, do you think that the enraged elders will vent their anger on Bitter Pagoda? Ning Ling screamed, You dare? If you harm her, I will fight you to the bitter end. Wenren Dongyue wasn't angry. Rather, he was happy. The more Ning Ling valued him, the better. Junior apprentice Sister Ning Ling, you should know that my immortal sect will not be threatened by anyone. The elders can make any decision they deem reasonable. Allow me to remind you that you cannot be impulsive and end up regretting it for the rest of your life. Ning Ling shivered on the verge of collapse. Chinyu said in a low voice, Ning Ling, that person beneath Bitter Pagoda, could she be? Ning Ling nodded with tears streaming down her face, guilt in her eyes. She reached out a hand and stroked his face. She whispered, Chinyu, I'm sorry. I cannot abandon her. I'm sorry. Chinyu's heart was heavy, but he squeezed out a smile. I understand. How can I blame you for this? It's just that some people are too despicable. He took a deep breath and wiped away Ning Ling's tears. Ning Ling, return to the immortal sect with them. I will look for you. Ning Ling's voice trembled. Qin Yu, senior apprentice sister, do you not believe me? Qin Yu's eyes were calm. In the past, I promised you that I would enter the land of divinity and demons to find you, and now I have done so. Today, Qin Yu's promise still stands. I will try to find you in the immortal sect as soon as possible. His eyes swept over Wenren Dongyue and the immortal sect disciples behind him. At that time, no one will be able to stop us from being together. Ning Ling nodded. I believe you. I believe you. She lifted a hand, and a strand of hair fell into her hand. By sending this to junior apprentice brother, it means that my heart is together with yours. I promise to junior apprentice brother that no matter how many years pass, I will wait for you in life or in death. Qin Yu received the strand of hair. With a flash of light, a jade pendant appeared in his hand. In the past, senior apprentice sister gave this to me. Now, I will give it to you as a token of our love. Ning Ling grasped the jade pendant. She deeply looked at Qin Yu. Then, with a flash of light, she flew in front of Wenren Dongyue. Allow Qin Yu to safely leave. Moreover, in the future, the immortal sect cannot harm him on their own initiative. Otherwise, I am willing to die with him. Wenren Dongyue clenched his teeth. All right, I agree. Boundless spatial fluctuations erupted. The spatial gate that stood on the ground was finally formed. In the next moment, a boundless aura suddenly descended upon the infinite realm. Endless heaven and earth's spiritual strength gathered together, condensing into a phantom in the air. Rumble, rumble. Chapter 408. Shua. The phantom raised its head and coldly stared at it. I came here for another important matter. I have no intention of fighting with you. The giant face fell silent for a moment before disappearing into the lightning waterfall. The tens of thousands of terrifying lightning bolts scattered along with it. A phantom had forced back the incarnation of the infinite realm's rules. Only a transcendent supreme being could accomplish this. And in the land of divinity and demons, those that had the qualifications to be called supreme elders were only at the calamity immortal realm. Wenren Dongyue's eyes flashed. He respectfully fell to his knees. High-clarity netherworld realm disciple, Wenren Dongyue greets Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace's great elder, Purple Moon. The many immortal sect disciples in the back jumped in fright and hurriedly knelt down to pay their respects. The position of Palace Master of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace had been vacant for many years. This great elder was the person with the highest status. Even in their eyes, she was an unreachable existence. Ning Ling revealed a look of excitement. Disciple greets, Honorable Master. Wenren Dongyue's expression changed. Ning Ling had actually entered the tutelage of Great Elder Purple Moon. In other words, as long as there wasn't an accident, Ning Ling would absolutely become the future supreme ruler of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Grand Elder Purple Moon was a woman who appeared to be in her 30s. Even though her face was blurry, one could sense her enchanting charm from her figure. Her eyes turned warm as she looked at Ning Ling. I already know what happened. The reason my projection descended here today is to help you. Ning Ling was pleasantly surprised. Thank you, Honorable Master. Great Elder Purple Moon waved her hand. Wenren Dongyue, during this trip to the infinite realm, you failed to fulfill the expectations of the immortal sect. Once you return, you will be punished. Get up. Wenren Dongyue had a respectful expression. Yes. At this time, Great Elder Purple Moon's eyes fell on Qin Yu. Her body stiffened and a look of struggle crossed her face. The strength of this gaze was indescribable. It was indistinct and traceless, yet was as heavy as a million mountains, and it was capable of seeing through all the secrets of a person. It was just a glance, a brief moment, but to Qin Yu's senses, it felt unimaginably long. When he looked away, Qin Yu gasped for breath, a cold sweat soaking his robes. This was the might of the calamity immortal realm. Even though it was only a phantom, It possessed unimaginable strength. Honorable Master, Ning Ling revealed a worried expression. Great Elder Purple Moon smiled. Sure enough, women tend to leave their husbands. Nothing has happened yet, but she's already leaning towards a little man like you. Ning Ling's face flushed red, but her heart was filled with even more anticipation. Her teacher didn't seem to reject Chinyu. If she could help them, then perhaps there would be a turning point in the situation. Great Elder Purple Moon hesitated for a moment and said, "In my Nine-Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, there's a secret technique called the primordial singular energy art. If one successfully cultivates this technique, they can freely transform the strength within their body. The demonic path has the undying true demon body, and my immortal sect also has the ancient chaos body, both of which are in no way weaker. As long as one reaches large success in the primordial singular energy art, the true demon body will naturally transform into the chaos body. Chinyu, the primordial singular energy art, is a profound art. It is extremely difficult to cultivate, and there are also many hidden dangers. Do you dare to cultivate it?" The last question was like billowing thunder, exploding in his mind. Chinyu had to use every ounce of his strength to maintain his thoughts and respectfully bow. "I'm willing to give it a try." Great Elder Purple Moon revealed a look of praise. "Your soul cultivation isn't weak, and your will can be considered tenacious. Your chances of successfully cultivating the primordial singular energy art are much higher." With a flick of her sleeves, a circle of light covered Chinyu and all the immortal sect disciples. In the next moment, everyone vanished from sight. The world around him was filled with rainbow colors, but there was an invisible strength that covered Chinyu within. He didn't feel any shaking or tearing of space. Soon, there was a brilliant flash of light. Chinyu opened his eyes and discovered that he and the people from the immortal sect had appeared beside a transmission array. The array formation had already been activated. Several cultivators wearing the robes of the immortal sect with tyrannical auras were maintaining the operation of the array formation. The one leading them was especially powerful. He was a Blue Sea Supreme Elder. Great Elder Purple Moon has ordered that after you arrive, you must return to the immortal sect. You're not allowed to stay outside. With a flick of her sleeves, the halo of light that covered the array formation opened up a channel. "Go in." Ningling arrived at Chinyu's side and grabbed his hand. Although she didn't say anything, there was a happy look on her face. Chinyu hesitated for a moment, but didn't say anything. He smiled and held her hand. Wenren Dongyue swept his eyes over this scene. He lightly said, "Let's go." Soon, everyone stepped into the transmission array. In a brilliant flash of light, everyone vanished from sight. After several more transmission arrays, the last time they stepped out of the transmission array, they arrived at the immortal sect. Taking a deep breath, Chinyu could feel the inconceivably rich heaven and earth spiritual strength outside. His eyes shook. No wonder there were countless powerhouses in the immortal sect. If one cultivated in this environment, they would likely have some achievements. Ning Ling saw his surprise. She said in a low voice, "Chinyu, this is a transmission array in the Heaven Step region. Only elders and direct disciples can live here." Chinyu suddenly understood. So only a small number of people could live here. Thinking about it, even if the immortal sect had countless resources, it was impossible for them to equally distribute them to their disciples. Ningling pulled Chinyu out of the transmission array. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I'm a bit tired. I'll bring Chinyu back to rest first. Farewell." With that, the two of them flew far away. Wenren Dongyue's face darkened. He took a deep breath and flew away. Ningling indeed had an extremely high status in the immortal sect. Her residence was actually a mountain peak that occupied a considerable amount of land. The mountain peak was protected by an array formation. Layers of light revolved around it. It was clear that its defensive capabilities were extremely potent. I entered teacher's tutelage not too long ago and was assigned this residence. Today is also my first time here. Ningling took out a token and waved it at the mountain peak. The array formation's light immediately split open, revealing an entrance. She smiled and said, "Let's go in." Chinyu smiled. "Okay." The two of them flew into the mountain peak. The heaven and earth spiritual strength inside was actually much richer than the outside world. The thick heaven and earth spiritual strength even condensed into clouds in the air, making it seem like a paradise. A group of maids flew in together. Looking at their appearance, it seemed as if they were picking spirit fruits from a mountain. The sudden appearance of Ning Ling and Qin Yu gave them a fright, but they quickly composed themselves and bowed. "Maids, greet the mountain lord." Ning Ling waved her hand. "You may leave." "Yes." The group of maids flew away, but as they glanced around, they saw that the two of them were holding hands and had strange expressions. When they vanished, Ning Ling finally blushed. Qin Yu laughed. "I thought you weren't shy at all." Ning Ling glared at him. After a moment of hesitation, she didn't take back her hand. Following the guidance of the token, the two of them soon arrived at their residence. Deep within the palace, Ning Ling dismissed all the maids and guards. Then, she brought Qin Yu into a chamber. With a flick of her sleeves, she took out several strange stones and placed them in the chamber, immediately isolating them from the surrounding aura. "All right, no one should be able to hear us." Qin Yu thought for a moment. He lifted a hand and took out the 9th province furnace. He smiled and said, "It's not that I don't believe you, but it's best to be a bit more careful." Ning Ling nodded. "I naturally know." She paused for a moment and said, "Qin Yu, are you worried that teacher has other thoughts towards you?" Qin Yu didn't deny it. "I indeed don't dare to completely believe you." Ning Ling anxiously said, "Then you still dare to come? What if you have nowhere to run?" Qin Yu smiled. "This is the best chance to be together with you. Even if there are risks, I still want to give it a try." Ning Ling's heart warmed. She thought for a moment and said, "I believe that teacher already knows of my feelings towards you. Because of the bloodline in my body, teacher values me greatly, so she shouldn't try anything, but, as you said, it's best if you and I are careful. I will figure out the matter of the primordial singular energy art as soon as possible." Qin Yu nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister." Looking at his earnest appearance, Ning Ling couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. She inadvertently revealed a charming smile, causing Qin Yu's eyes to widen. The chamber was quiet. The only sound was the breathing of the two people. The air suddenly became a bit warmer. Qin Yu licked his lips, some thoughts stirring in his mind. Ning Ling's face became increasingly red. She lowered her head, feeling the burning heat in Qin Yu's eyes. Her body became increasingly stiff. As Qin Yu coughed and prepared to move, a messenger jade slip suddenly flew into the chamber. However, it was blocked by the spells the two people laid down. Ning Ling hurriedly stood up and took the jade slip. She swept through it with her divine sense and said, "Teacher has summoned me." She looked up and saw the disappointment in Qin Yu's eyes. Her heart skipped a beat, and she stuttered, I'll be right back." As she finished speaking, she left the chamber as if she were fleeing. Qin Yu rubbed his nose, a bitter smile on his face. This great elder purple moon really knew how to choose the right time. Could it be that she felt the two of them isolating their auras, so she didn't feel at ease summoning Ning Ling away? All sorts of random thoughts filled his mind with resentment. "Ha!" Qin Yu slapped his forehead. His safety hadn't even been determined yet, and yet he dared to have such thoughts. Could it be that he had been holding back all these years? When did he become so lacking in self-control? Qin Yu took a deep breath and suppressed his fiery thoughts. His complexion became tranquil once more, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He wanted to see just what kind of result Ning Ling would bring back. As she flew out from the mountain peak, the blush on Ning Ling's face slowly faded away. But there was still a bit of shyness lingering in her eyes. Qin Yu, he actually had such thoughts, just thinking about it made her entire body heat up. Ning Ling quickly gathered her thoughts and flew straight towards Great Elder Purple Moon's residence. Soon, in front of a towering mountain, Ning Ling took out her status token. She waved it, and the array formation on the mountain spat out a beam of light that wrapped around her. The scenery changed. When Ning Ling landed on the ground, she had already appeared in a grand hall. Purple Moon was gently leaning against a soft white couch, a smile on her face. Ning Ling, come here and talk. Yes, teacher. Ning Ling stepped forwards and respectfully bowed. This disciple thanks teacher for helping to protect Qinyu today. Purple Moon smiled and shook her head. I think that you aren't completely at ease with your teacher helping me. Ning Ling was silent for a moment. She looked up and said, this disciple is indeed puzzled. I asked teacher to dispel my doubts. This was the same as acknowledging Purple Moon's words. The great elder revealed a bit of helplessness. You, relying on my favor, you are becoming more and more insolent. She waved her hand. It's fine. If I don't explain things clearly to you, I fear you and that little man of yours won't be able to sleep well. Disciple should be well aware that your bloodline plays an extremely important role in my nine-heaven mirror moon palace. The reason I helped you and Qinyu is because I didn't want you to lose the heart to cultivate because of him. That is the entire reason. Ning Ling bowed. Honorable Master's great graciousness is something that this disciple shouldn't speak of, but Qinyu is the person that this disciple has chosen for his entire life. If something were to happen to him, this disciple does not wish to continue living in this world. I ask that Honorable Master ensure his safety in the immortal sect. Purple Moon frowned. Disciple, I can promise you that no one in the immortal sect will harm him. But there are many dangers in cultivating the primordial singular energy art. If something were to happen to him, do you want to die with him? Ning Ling looked up. Yes. Purple Moon was silent for a long time. Then, she forced a smile and said, all right. It looks like I will have to prepare some things to help Qinyu cultivate. This brat is quite lucky. He actually managed to make my disciple fall head over heels for him. Then, Purple Moon casually said, good disciple, the primordial singular energy art requires a pure yang body to cultivate. I can see that Qinyu hasn't lost his primordial yang. When the two of you are together, you must restrain yourselves, otherwise you will harm his life. Ning Ling flushed red. Teacher, what nonsense are you speaking? If there isn't anything else, then this disciple will be excusing herself. Purple Moon happily smiled. She waved her hand. Go. Remember to cultivate well so that you can inherit the teachings of my nine-heaven mirror moon palace as soon as possible. Ning Ling bowed and drew back. As she watched her figure vanish from the palace gates, Purple Moon's smile slowly faded away and her eyes turned icy cold. When she mentioned her primordial yang body just now, Ning Ling's flustered expression didn't escape her eyes. It seemed that something had happened between her and Qinyu just now. Luckily, she had interrupted them in time so that a disaster hadn't occurred. Chapter 409. The news that Ning Ling brought back calmed Qinyu. At the very least, it was unlikely that Purple Moon would try to harm him. Qinyu, I will always be by your side. When you cultivate the primordial singular energy art, you can stay in my mountain peak. Even if someone tries to harm you, they won't have the chance. Ning Ling earnestly said, then I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister. Qinyu didn't decline. The two of them fell silent. Ning Ling blushed and her body trembled, a bit restless. Qinyu said, Ning Ling, is there something troubling you? Ning Ling suddenly stood up. As she walked out, she said, Qinyu, Honorable Master reminded me that the primordial singular energy art requires a pure yang body to cultivate. You shouldn't think too much about it. As she finished speaking, her two small ears turned red. Her figure flashed, and she vanished from the chamber's entrance. Qinyu was stunned. He bitterly smiled. Indeed, his previous performance had caused Ning Ling to misunderstand him. Was he the type of person that would be controlled by his lower body? But as he thought about Ning Ling's shy and restless appearance just now and how she had fled, Qinyu helplessly discovered that he couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. He really hadn't been wronged. After clarifying certain matters, Ning Ling was much more relaxed. She went out for several days, searching for information related to the primordial singular energy art. Through the ancient texts of the sect, she asked some nine-heaven mirror moon palace cultivators for guidance. Ningling was half worried and half happy. The primordial singular energy art could indeed transform one's strength, like her honorable master had said. If one cultivated it to large success, it wouldn't be difficult to transform the undying true demon body into the ancient chaos body. But cultivating this cultivation method had extremely harsh requirements for a cultivator. Even if one used all sorts of supporting treasures, there would still be many dangers during the cultivation process, some of which could even endanger one's life. On the 5th day after returning to the immortal sect, Purple Moon arrived at the mountain peak. She personally delivered the primordial singular energy art jade slip, as well as all sorts of cultivation treasures. Chinyu, do you know that even if I were to use all my wealth to exchange for these treasures, it would still be extremely strenuous? If it weren't for my disciple, you would never have obtained these things. I have already done everything I can. You had best be careful so that you don't lose your life and harm my disciple. These words were cold and without the slightest bit of politeness. Chinyu respectfully said, "This junior will work hard and not disappoint great elders' expectations." Humph! What you cannot let down is this stubborn disciple of mine. Purple Moon looked at Ning Ling with doting eyes. You must also cultivate well. The future of my nine-heaven mirror moon palace lies in your hands. Ning Ling earnestly said, "For honorable master to help me like this disciple is extremely grateful. I will cultivate diligently to repay honorable master." Purple Moon smiled with satisfaction. She lifted a hand and stroked her beautiful hair. Then she turned and stepped away, vanishing without a trace. Yu's hand said, "Use Ling rub bed," and said, "Ling was down, Ling's Ling Moon." She returned the jade slip to Qin Yu and continued to examine the cultivation treasures that Purple Moon had sent over. 2 hours later, she laid down the last bead and stretched out, a smile on her face. "There's no problem. These treasures are all of high quality. Honorable Master has indeed put a lot of effort into them." As she spoke, she looked up and saw that Qin Yu was in a daze. He was staring blankly at the part of her chest that had become even more prominent because she had stretched herself. Her face flushed red and she pouted. "Qin Yu, when did you become so vulgar? Cultivate well. I'm leaving first." Qin Yu had a resentful expression. He was also a bit helpless. When facing Ning Ling, his self-control was always poor. He shook his head and cast away his thoughts. Then he sat down cross-legged and probed the jade slip with his divine sense. The world is where all things are born. Their natures are different, but they all originate from the same source. All things are connected after a long time. Qin Yu laid down the jade slip, a look of awe and admiration on his face. This primordial singular energy art involved all things in the world, and its mysteries were truly an eye-opener. The person who created this art in the past must have been a peerless powerhouse with a transcendent cultivation and infinite magic power. Although the primordial singular energy art had extremely high requirements for cultivation talent and required a massive amount of supporting treasures, it was still a heaven-defying cultivation method. This was because its function wasn't just to help a cultivator transform the strength within their body, but it could also help a cultivator greatly increase their strength. This was because the key to the primordial singular energy art was to condense a breath of pre-celestial energy and sink it into the dantian, allowing it to grow stronger and stronger. When the pre-celestial energy surpassed the strength within the body, it could instantly fuse together, taking advantage of the chaos before the fusion to change the attribute of one's strength. When the attribute of one's strength changed and the pre-celestial energy completely fused into one's body, it was the same as doubling one's strength. Moreover, the greatest advantage of the primordial singular energy art lay in its cultivation speed. As long as a cultivator could withstand it and also had enough supporting treasures, they could cultivate it to large success in a short dozen-some years. That was the same as doubling a cultivator's strength in just a dozen-some years. Disregarding the dangers, The primordial singular energy art was absolutely one of the shortcuts to increasing one's strength. Chinyu suppressed these thoughts. He lifted his hand, and 6 jade boxes appeared in front of him. He opened them one by one, revealing the items within. Immediately, a boundless aura spread out. 9 colored lotus, tranquil heart grass, broken branch flower. These are the items needed to condense a breath of pre-celestial energy. Not to mention anything else, just these 6 heavenly materials were incomparably precious, even rare in the world. Their value couldn't be measured with spirit stones. Even in the land of divinity and demons, the primordial singular energy art could be considered one of the most extravagant cultivation methods. Even if an ordinary cultivator were to obtain it, they would only be able to shed tears. Just from this alone, Great Elder Purple Moon was truly a good person. Chinyu deliberated his thoughts several times. After confirming that he had thoroughly grasped the method to condense pre-celestial energy, he flicked his sleeves, and the 6 treasures flew up above his head, each one of them rapidly spinning around. A faint blue light gradually spread out, submerging Chinyu's figure. It slowly condensed into a giant blue cocoon that expanded and contracted like a beating heart. Outside the training chamber, Ningling shyly walked out. But she still didn't feel relieved to leave. She paced back and forth, looking up at the tightly shut stone door from time to time. Now that the training chamber was completely sealed off, even as the mountain master, she had no way of knowing what was happening inside. She wondered how Chinyu was doing right now. After inquiring about the news these past days, Ningling had gained an extremely deep understanding of the primordial singular energy art. Although condensing a breath of pre-celestial energy was the first step, it was the most difficult part of the first 3 levels of this cultivation method. The slightest mistake, and the condensation of pre-celestial energy would fail. The impact of the collapse would be enough to tear apart a cultivator's meridians and even cause serious damage to their dantian. Thinking of this, Ningling suddenly felt a bit of regret. She shouldn't have left in a moment of shyness. She should have cautiously warned Chinyu not to be careless. Chinyu, you must be careful. In the training chamber, Chinyu sat down cross-legged. As the blue cocoon around him constantly contracted and expanded, wisps of blue energy entered his dantian sea, condensing in the skies above his great Tao base and his 5 nascent souls. As the blue energy continued to pour in, it began to form the phantom of a blue sun. The moment the blue sun phantom appeared, the 5 nascent souls simultaneously opened their eyes. Their small hands began to form hand seals, and the blue energy that entered his dantian sea was immediately drawn in by the power of the hand seals. It began to flow into the blue sun phantom in a slow and steady order. This sort of situation was somewhat similar to refining pills. The blue sun phantom was the pill, and the blue energy in his dantian sea was the material. Chinyu suddenly felt a sense of familiarity and began to control it with great ease. Within his soul space, the purple crescent moon above Chinyu's soul emitted an imperceptible ringing sound. The purple light that fell down suddenly became rich, and his thoughts became clear. It was similar to when he ignited the power of the burning heavens and entered a completely calm state of mind. This allowed Chinyu's control over the blue energy in his dantian sea to reach a state of absolute precision, perfect without the least bit of flaw. With this absolutely calm consciousness, he couldn't feel the passing of time in the outside world. When the last wisp of blue energy submerged into the blue sun phantom, Chinyu's heart shook, and he withdrew from this state. Within his soul space, the purple moon dimmed, and the light it emitted diminished by over half. But at this time, Chinyu didn't have time to be curious about the changes that occurred to the purple moon. The blue sun phantom in his dantian sea began to collapse inward. The gigantic blue sun phantom shrank to a point, and then suddenly erupted from this point, turning into a blue sun phantom once more. A pale blue light illuminated his dantian sea. The 5 nascent souls were bathed in it, their faces filled with enjoyment. Chinyu focused his mind. Within this blue sun, he could see some mist slowly rising up, stretching and gathering. This was a breath of pre-celestial energy. He had succeeded. The primordial singular energy art had an extremely high threshold, and the first step had stumped countless people. But Qin Yu's cultivation had gone surprisingly smoothly, as if everything had happened naturally. Shua. Qin Yu opened his eyes, a thoughtful look on his face. He felt that there was a profound meaning behind the changes occurring to the purple moon in his soul space. Purple moon, blue sun, could there be some connection between these two? But thinking about it, he suppressed these thoughts. The purple moon was obtained from the nine-realm Holy Land, and the blue sun was formed from the pre-celestial energy condensed from the immortal sex primordial singular energy art. There simply wasn't any connection between the two. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps the power of the blue sun had inadvertently touched upon the power of the purple moon. This was a common occurrence in cultivation. Qin Yu sensed for a moment, and a look of surprise crossed his face. He felt as if only a moment had passed, but he had actually been in seclusion for a full 10 days. After such a long time, without any news, Ning Ling was likely worried. He stood up and flicked his sleeves, quietly opening the chamber stone door. A beautiful figure entered his field of vision, her face filled with pleasant surprise. As she sensed Qin Yu's aura, a bright smile lit up her face. Qin Yu, you've succeeded. Qin Yu smiled. I'm lucky I didn't fail you. He glanced at Ning Ling's tired appearance. He said, startled, have you been here for these last 10 days? Ning Ling lifted a hand and smoothed back her hair. The first step of the primordial singular energy art is the most critical step. If I didn't personally stand guard here, I wouldn't have been able to feel at ease. Qin Yu's heart ached for her. He stepped forwards and hugged her. Why are you doing this? I'm in the chamber, so you can't feel anything. Ning Ling closed her eyes. She whispered, at least this way I can feel a bit more at ease. Her voice gradually lowered. After she finished speaking, she fell into a deep sleep in his arms. During these 10 days of waiting, her restlessness and anxiety had greatly damaged her mind. Now that she saw Qin Yu leave seclusion and let out a breath of relief, she couldn't hold on any longer. Qin Yu picked her up. What a silly girl, but this feeling of someone worrying about me and caring for me is really good. He strode forwards, waving away several maids. Then, he personally placed Ning Ling on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Qin Yu's eyes flashed, and he fell down beside her. I'm so tired, I can't hold on much longer. He closed his eyes, a happy smile on his face. Outside Ning Ling's living room, a maid heard 2 even breaths coming from the room. She relaxed a little and put away the purple gold bell in her palm. She turned and hurried away. On the way, she met 2 companions who greeted her and said that she wasn't feeling well and asked for a leave of absence from the steward on her behalf. After returning to her dwelling, the maid closed the doors and windows. Then, she took out a deep green bead from her storage ring and carefully poured magic power into it. The bead emitted light and condensed into a blurry image in the air. A voice lightly said, "What happened?" This voice was Purple Moon. The maid respectfully knelt to the ground. Great Elder, Qin Yu left seclusion today and has smoothly condensed pre-celestial energy. Then, after he escorted Mountain Master Ning Ling back to her room, he stayed inside. What? Why didn't you stop him? The image trembled. The maid hurriedly said, I'm monitored through the purple gold bell. Mountain Master Ning Ling and Qin Yu were only sleeping together and didn't do anything excessive. You told me not to alert Qin Yu unless absolutely necessary, so I hesitated and didn't show myself. The image was silent for several breaths of time. Then, Purple Moon's voice sounded out again. You did well. Continue to monitor him. The light from the bead vanished. The maid carefully put it away, a helpless expression on her face. The great elder's matters weren't easy to handle, but she had no choice. She hoped that Qin Yu would continue to behave himself. Otherwise, if Mountain Master Ning Ling were to find out that she was secretly helping others, the results wouldn't be good. In the grand hall, Purple Moon slammed her palm down on the armrest. The giant chair beneath her instantly disintegrated into powder. Her eyes were icy cold, overflowing with killing intent. After a long time, Purple Moon took a deep breath. She was barely able to suppress the chill in her heart, but her complexion was still gloomy. Chapter 410. Deep within the palaces, there was a heavily guarded training chamber. At this time, the stone door quietly opened and a young man stepped out. He stood tall and straight, his appearance dignified and dignified. He wore a long black robe, making him seem even more extraordinary. This man was naturally Chinyu. Cultivation knew no day or moon. In the blink of an eye, winter turned to summer. This was his 7th year in the immortal sect, and his cultivation of the primordial singular energy art could only be called unexpectedly smooth. Although he didn't know what his cultivation speed was like in the history of the immortal sect, he could tell from his subtle expressions on Great Elder Purple Moon's face that his cultivation speed wasn't too bad. After leaving seclusion today, he had reached the 7th level of the primordial singular energy art. Within his Dantian Sea, the blue sun phantom was incomparably solid. The 5 nascent souls bathed within it were able to absorb the blue light and cultivate on their own. Moreover, their cultivation speed wasn't slow at all. In these 7 years, Chinyu had unknowingly reached the 6th level of Divine Soul. Although he had a deep foundation after breaking into Divine Soul, and his strength had rapidly increased, the most he could do was reach the 4th level. The remaining 2 levels were what Chinyu had cultivated for 7 years. It had to be known that from the 1st level to the 2nd level, and from the 2nd level to the 3rd level, although the increase in combat strength was the same, the difficulty increased to a crazy degree. It was like building a tall building. The lower levels were simple and fast, but the higher one went, the more difficult it would be. Moreover, a single mistake could cause the foundation to become unstable, leaving behind massive hidden dangers. Although this analogy wasn't too appropriate, this was the general meaning. In 7 years, he had broken through 2 levels of Divine Soul, and they were at the 5th and 6th level at that. Even in a top sect, this speed was extremely rare. A smile lifted the corners of his lips. He looked up at another tightly shut chamber not too far away. Ningling was currently cultivating inside. In the first 2 years, Ningling was worried about him and couldn't concentrate on cultivating. But afterwards, she was left speechless to discover that the primordial singular energy art that was filled with countless dangers and difficulties for others was surprisingly obedient in his hands. His cultivation gradually returned to the right track. Chinyu finally experienced just how tyrannical the bloodline of God that the immortal sect placed so much importance on and even regarded as the successor of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Apart from the first 2 years, Ningling had only been cultivating for 5 years. But in these short 5 years, her cultivation had broken through 5 levels, and she had reached the 8th level of Divine Soul, a small boundary a year. There was almost no sign of her slowing down. Although the Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace provided her with a complete set of cultivation resources, this cultivation speed was still unimaginably fast. Every time Great Elder Purple Moon came, she was always icy to Chinyu. But when she saw Ningling, she couldn't stop smiling. As he thought about how he had been complacent about his cultivation speed just now, compared to Ningling, he was nothing but trash. Luckily, he still had the primordial singular energy art. Once he reached perfection of the 9th level, he would be able to fuse them together. At that time, his strength would inevitably rise. Otherwise, facing Ningling would truly be a great pressure. He revealed a helpless smile and turned to leave. In normal circumstances, after he left seclusion, Ningling would stop cultivating for 2 or 3 days. But today, it was clearly a different situation. Hearing movement behind him, Chinyu's face lit up with joy, and he quickly turned around. The closed stone door opened, and Ningling stepped out. Her expression was calm and tranquil. As her cultivation rose, she became even more beautiful. Each and every one of her actions possessed an indescribable charm. Just a single glance was enough to cause one to be mesmerized. As she saw Qin Yu, her eyebrows arched and she revealed a smile. At this moment, it was like 100 flowers were in full bloom. No words could describe it. Qin Yu was stunned. After several breaths of time, he was awakened by Ning Ling's rebuking voice. He dryly smiled. This was awkward. Nearly every time he left seclusion and saw Ning Ling, he would be frozen. He had clearly prepared himself just now, but it still didn't work. He bitterly smiled inwardly. He could only attribute this to Ning Ling's charm growing greater and greater. As the saying goes, demons grow 1 foot taller, while demonesses grow 10 feet taller. Cough, cough. It was impossible for his mental state to catch up. After being stunned by Ning Ling's charm, Qin Yu carefully looked at her several times. Then his body shook and his mouth fell open. Divine soul perfection. Ning Ling's aura faintly blended in with the surrounding world, as if she were one with the world. This was the sign of perfection in perceiving the rules of the world. Taking another step forward, she would be able to walk down her own road within the rules, control the power of the rules, and step into the blue sea realm. Everyone else's cultivation becomes slower and slower. But why is it the opposite for you? In the past, it was 1 step a year, but I haven't even been in seclusion for a year, and you've already jumped 2 levels. How can others live like this? Ning Ling's calm and tranquil demeanor was easily exposed in front of Qin Yu. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. Speak properly. How come I find that you're becoming more and more different from before? Although she said this, the smile on her face indicated that she was in a good mood. Qin Yu forced a smile. What I said is the truth. Ning Ling smiled. In 7 years, you managed to reach the 7th level of the primordial singular energy art. Although teacher didn't tell me, your speed should be extremely fierce. Of course, I am destined to become the man of the palace master, so how could I lose face for you? Qin Yu laughed, as if he were unrivaled in the world. Ning Ling blushed red before immediately composing herself. She turned and walked away. Let's go. I haven't eaten your cooking in a long time. Let's go now. Behind her, Qin Yu knew that his thoughts had been seen through by Ning Ling. He forced a smile. Why is it always me who cooks? I can also do it. Don't leave my big sister to me. Because of Ning Ling's cultivation method, the higher her boundary was, the more indifferent she became. Besides revealing her emotions when facing Qin Yu, she was also indifferent towards Purple Moon. Qin Yu was worried about this state, so whenever he had a chance he would think of a way to tease her. He thought he was being careful, but it seemed he wasn't able to hide it from Ning Ling's eyes. 2 hours later, in a small pavilion at the summit, Qin Yu dismissed all the maids and sat down. Come, fill this uncle's cup. Ning Ling humphed but still filled his cup. Their cups touched, and they drank it all in one gulp. A gentle breeze blew past, carrying with it the scent of fresh vegetation. He tasted the wine and several dishes, occasionally looking up at Ning Ling, who seemed as if she would fly away at any moment. Qin Yu felt that his life had never been so perfect before. If he could, he would rather this sort of day never be broken. It would be best if it lasted until the end of time. Ning Ling helplessly laid down her cup. Qin Yu, have you seen enough yet? It's been several years, and you're becoming more and more unsightly. How can I see enough? Even if it's 1,000 years or 10,000 years, it still won't be enough. Qin Yu smiled. Ning Ling was silent for a moment. She said in a soft voice, I also hope that I can always be together with you. But who knows what the future will be like? Qin Yu turned and looked into the distance. I have always believed that man can conquer the heavens. As long as you and I work hard, there is nothing that can separate us. I have already cultivated to the 7th level of the primordial singular energy art, and in 3 years at most, I can reach perfection of the 9th level. Once I transform my undying true demon body into the ancient chaos body, you can ask Great Elder Purple Moon to accept me as your personal guard. At that time, I will follow you wherever you go, and you won't be able to shake me off. Ning Ling seemed to think of the state she couldn't escape from Qin Yu's grasp. She smiled, extremely light, but beautiful to the extreme. Qin Yu licked his lips. Ningling's complexion changed. But before she could run away, Qin Yu flicked his sleeves, and a gentle breeze was summoned, turning into a wall of wind that covered the small pavilion. After a moment, the wall of wind dissipated. Qin Yu stood in his original position, a smug smile on his face. Across from him, Ningling still had a faint blush on her face. She subconsciously traced her lips and hatefully said, "You are becoming more and more insolent. You actually dare. You dare to reach your hand in." Qin Yu arched an eyebrow. "I didn't go against Great Elder Purple Moon's warning. I still have my pure young body." "You." Ningling blushed to the extreme. She stood up, her figure disappearing with the wind. Qin Yu laughed. He watched her leave. This wasn't the first time, but this girl was still so shy. After they were married, what would she do? After a long time, his smile faded away. Qin Yu looked down at the scenery below, his eyes flashing. Ever since he entered the immortal sect, no one had shown him any disrespect. Although Great Elder Purple Moon's attitude was poor, she never lacked any supporting treasures, and the quality she used was the best. All of this proved that the immortal sect had no ill intentions towards him. But for some unknown reason, deep in Qin Yu's heart, there was always a trace of restlessness. Qin Yu let out a light breath and said in a soft voice, "I hope I'm just overthinking things." On the fourth day, Great Elder Purple Moon delivered the treasures needed for the 8th level of the primordial singular energy art. Seeing that Qin Yu had indeed reached the 7th level, a complex light flashed in her eyes. After throwing down the treasures, she didn't hold on to Ningling's hand and instead turned to leave, as if she weren't in a good mood. As usual, Ningling inspected all the treasures. After determining that there were no problems, she returned them to Qin Yu and asked, "When will you continue cultivating?" "I've been cultivating for 7 years, and I'm a bit tired. I'm planning on resting for several more days. What about you?" "I'll wait for you." Qin Yu smiled and invited her. "On this mountain, the little pavilion has the most beautiful scenery. Let's go there again today." Ningling blushed red. "I'm not going." She turned and walked away. Qin Yu chased after her. "If you don't want to go, then don't go. Where do you want to go?" Purple Moon returned to her palace, her eyes dignified. Not long after she sat down, a man's gentle voice echoed in the hall. "What? You don't want to part with me?" "Umph." Purple Moon's complexion turned cold. "To directly break into my palace, Han Chengping, you are becoming more and more insolent." From a corner, the phantom of a man walked out. He faintly smiled and said, "It's best to be a bit more careful about our agreement. If you don't like it, then I'll pay attention next time." Purple Moon's complexion relaxed. She paused for several breaths of time and said, "In 7 years, he managed to cultivate the 7th level of the primordial singular energy art. This boy Qin Yu's talent has far surpassed my expectations. If it weren't for the fact that things couldn't be salvaged, I really would have thought of making this a reality." Han Qingping smiled. "It's good that Great Elder understands." He slowly sighed. To cultivate the 7th level in 7 years, what a heaven-gifted genius. Unfortunately, the primordial singular energy art's 9th level outline is missing. If he cultivates it to the end, all that awaits him is death. Moreover, now that he has cultivated to the 7th level, it is already too late to turn back. Purple Moon's eyes were cold. "I don't need you to remind me. How are the preparations going?" Han Chengping cupped his hands together. "I've already prepared everything. There won't be any problems. Great Elder, please rest assured." "Humph. Let me remind you, if even the tiniest bit of this matter is leaked out, I will never forgive you." Purple Moon shouted out. The phantom of man was silent for several breaths of time. He slowly said, "I understand." Chapter 411. The Immortal Sect was the strongest sect in the land of divinity and demons. There were countless powerhouses in the sect, and there were even several supreme elders that stood above the highest heavens. Even the demonic path, which had been hostile to them for generations, didn't dare to cause trouble at the immortal sect headquarters. Thus, in the endless years of peaceful life, the inspection of the immortal sect became increasingly lax. One day, two streaks of light flew over. One was tall and sturdy with a yellowish complexion, while the other was as thin as firewood with a face as black as iron. They landed on the ground far away. The several immortal sect cultivators guarding the entrance glanced at them. As they saw that their cultivations were ordinary and that they had flown out from within the sect, they didn't care too much about them. One of the cultivators said lazily, "Who is it? Where are you going?" The tall cultivator cupped his hands and saluted, "Senior apprentice brother, the two of us are the logistics disciples of High Heaven Peak. We were ordered to go out and purchase some items. This is our warrant." As he spoke, he took out a jade slip. The inspecting cultivator took it. After scanning it with his divine sense, he confirmed that it was indeed a purchase warrant. He casually tossed it over and said, "All right, you must return within a month. Hurry up and go." "Thank you, Senior." The tall cultivator cupped his hands and flew out of the mountain gate with the skinny cultivator in tow. With a few flashes, they disappeared from sight. Since when did Ling Tian Peak accept these two weirdos? They look so strange. Who cares about others? But these two are indeed a little ugly. Haha, especially the skinny one. Even hanging it on the door can ward off evil spirits. A moment later, two streaks of light flew out of the immortal sect's periphery and descended into a valley. The skinny cultivator snorted coldly. His voice was completely different from his appearance, and his voice was exceptionally melodious and pleasant to the ears. "It's all your rotten idea. It's good to just stay in the sect. You just had to run out." The tall cultivator turned around and laughed. "If you really look like this, you might really be able to ward off evil." "You?" The skinny cultivator panicked. His body flashed with light, and Ning Ling's angry face appeared. Across from him, there was a loud crackling of bones and a tall yellow-faced cultivator. This was Qinyu. Let's go, let's go. I've been in the land of divinity and demons for all these years, but I've never seriously looked around this world. You should be about the same as me, right? Let's take this opportunity to relax." Ning Ling lightly snorted. She turned and walked away. "Hey, wait for me." "I won't wait." As they bickered, the two figures gradually disappeared into the distance. Not far away, on the branch of a thick tree, the emerald bird that was watching the two of them leave had a flash of inspiration in its eyes. It flapped its wings and followed after them. Purple Moon sat in her palace. She looked up at the screen of light in front of her. She could see Qinyu and Ning Ling walking away hand in hand, her eyes cold and indifferent. "Honorable Master, do you need me to arrange for junior apprentice sister Ning Ling to return as soon as possible?" The female cultivator respectfully asked. Purple Moon lightly said, "Look after Ning Ling. As long as she doesn't go too far, let her do as she pleases. Consider this the last memory I will leave her." "Yes, Master." Where the immortal sect was located, there were no other powers. All the cultivators that lived here had some sort of connection to the immortal sect. Thus, this place was extremely peaceful, and there were almost no battles between cultivators. It was like a pure land, a paradise. Qinyu found it hard to believe that such a suitable place existed in the land of divinity and demons. After he and Ning Ling changed back into their true selves, they put on some simple disguises in order to avoid trouble. Even so, Ning Ling's charm still brought them a little trouble. However, with their current cultivations, it was easy for them to deal with this. They only treated it as a small interlude in their play. After being teased by Qinyu a few times, Ning Ling simply asked for the black robe from Qinyu. She covered herself in it and finally obtained some peace and quiet. Next to a small mountain stream, they lit a bonfire. They caught several fish and shrimp and roasted them with branches. They ate a mouthful of the delicious flavor and breathed in the light breeze. Night fell. Beneath the twinkling stars, they used the sky as their blanket and the earth as their bed. They quietly lay down together, head to head, listening to each other's quiet breathing. In a peaceful little town, they sat hand in hand under a tea stall, watching children play not too far away. Sweat dripped down their heads, leaving behind a string of tinkling laughter. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. Qin Yu and Ning Ling adapted to their circumstances and followed their hearts. There weren't any wonderful experiences, but the dullness of their lives made them feel increasingly real. Unknowingly, their hearts drew closer and closer. Underneath the tea stall, Qin Yu drank a mouthful of coarse country tea, savoring the roughness and bitterness of the tea. He smiled and said, "Senior apprentice sister, we should go back." Ning Ling said in a soft voice, "Time passes so quickly." "Then let's go." He stood up and laid down the tea money. Qin Yu grabbed Ning Ling's hand, and the two of them stepped forwards, instantly soaring into the horizon. "Ah, it's an immortal. Immortal, please accept me as your disciple." The tea stall owner grabbed the silver on the table, his face flushing red with excitement. It seemed that he had already decided to treat this silver as a family heirloom. High in the clouds, Ning Ling looked down at the final stop of their journey. She had a lost expression on her face. "Qin Yu, will we ever return?" Qin Yu held on to her and smiled. "When we return to the immortal sect, I will cultivate the primordial singular energy art to large success in a single go. From now on, you and I will never separate again." Ning Ling nodded. A day later, the two of them changed their appearances and smoothly returned to the immortal sect with fake identities. As for what happened afterwards, they were two people that didn't even exist, so who wanted to investigate them? You can do it. I hope that by the time I leave seclusion, you'll have reached the blue sea realm. Qin Yu smiled as he spoke. He turned and walked into the training chamber. The stone door quietly closed, blocking Ning Ling's gaze from the outside. Her heart trembled. As she looked at the closed stone door, she didn't know why, but she felt a bit restless. After hesitating again and again, Ning Ling didn't go into seclusion. Instead, she sat down cross-legged outside Qin Yu's training chamber. "Mountain Lord, do you plan on cultivating here?" The maid revealed an awkward expression. Ning Ling lightly said, "I will explain this matter to Honorable Master. You can all leave." "Yes." The maid turned and left. Soon, Purple Moon's avatar arrived. "Disciple, your cultivation has reached a critical juncture. How can you waste your time here?" Ning Ling stood up and bowed, her expression light. "The 8th level of the primordial singular energy art is incomparably crucial. After cultivating it, I will be able to directly attack the 9th level with a single breath of pre-celestial energy. This disciple is worried, so I ask Honorable Master to agree." Purple Moon frowned. Just as she was about to say something, she was interrupted by Ning Ling. "This disciple has already made up her mind. There is no need for Honorable Master to say anything further." Purple Moon sighed. "Very well, do as you wish." Schwa, her figure scattered. "Thank you, Honorable Master." Ning Ling turned and sat down. She looked at the closed stone door and slowly closed her eyes. 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. Soon, it was the 3rd year of Qin Yu's seclusion. Ning Ling sat outside the training chamber. Her white dress was untainted by even a speck of dust. Her beauty was soul-stirring. Suddenly, her eyes opened. She looked up into the skies, a look of pleasant surprise on her face. Rumble, rumble, between the heavens and earth, the sound of roaring rivers rose up. Endless heaven and earth spiritual strength gathered from all directions. There was so much of it that it completely condensed into essence. It was like countless rivers had appeared beneath the vault of heaven. These rivers of spiritual strength gathered in the skies, turning into 2 giant lakes. The lake on the left was pure white, and the lake on the right was pitch black. Both lakes had monstrous waves that tumbled and roared, shaking the heavens. These waves, and even the lakes themselves, were formed from the purest heaven and earth spiritual strength. Black and white were polar opposites, but they also attracted each other. Ning Ling's eyes became increasingly bright. This was the sign that she had reached large success in the 8th level of the primordial singular energy art. Once the black and white lakes fused together, that would represent the perfection of her pre-celestial energy and large success of the 9th level. This was also another strange aspect of the primordial singular energy art. The first 8 levels were all about preparation, accumulation, and gathering potential. Once one reached the 9th level, it would be like a volcano erupting, instantly pushing one into the 9th level. But at the same time, the 9th level was also the most dangerous part of the entire primordial singular energy art. A single mistake would cause the yin and yang energies to become unbalanced, causing a terrifying collision to occur. The strength of that collision was enough to instantly tear apart a cultivator that practiced this cultivation method, destroying their body and soul. Qinyu, you can definitely do it. I will wait for you to leave seclusion. You can definitely do it. Ningling's voice was so low that only she could hear it. Shua, Purple Moon's figure appeared in midair. She stepped forwards and landed in front of Ningling. Good disciple, you do not need to worry. In 10 years, you will be able to cultivate the primordial singular energy art to perfection. Qinyu is extremely suited to this cultivation method. Fusing yin and yang energies to reach the 9th level shouldn't be a problem. Ningling bowed. I hope it is, as Honorable Master says. Purple Moon looked at the incomparably massive lake formed from yin and yang energies in the skies. A complex light flashed in her eyes, but it soon turned icy cold. Qinyu's fate could no longer be changed. She did feel some regret, but what she did wasn't wrong. Ningling was destined to become the master of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. It was impossible for her to have feelings of love. Her only mission was to live for the sect. The changes occurring in Ningling's cave dwelling attracted countless gazes from the immortal sect. They were all inexplicably shocked, not knowing just what this woman with the divine Dao bloodline had done. Dozens of miles away, on another tall mountain peak, Wenren Dongyue stood behind a middle-aged man with his head lowered. This person had a dignified appearance, and his sideburns were a bit white, but it didn't affect his temperament at all. It only made him seem a bit more experienced and full of the vicissitudes of time. It's begun. The middle-aged man sighed. Dongyue, you should know that this child managed to cultivate the primordial singular energy art in 10 years and has already surpassed all records in the sect. He is truly a heaven-gifted genius. Even if you were to compare with him, you would still be a bit lacking. Purple Moon has already grown remorseful, but what a pity the primordial singular energy art is already incomplete, so she can only walk to the end. In the end, this junior's luck is bad. But to you, this is an opportunity bestowed by the heavens. If you can obtain Ningling's favor, then 1,000 years from now, there will surely be a place for you in the immortal sect. Wenren Dongyue bowed. This disciple will do everything in his power to obtain junior apprentice sister Ningling's approval. I will not disappoint teacher's training. The middle-aged man smiled. I, Han Chengping, have limited lucky chances in this life. It is impossible for me to peer into higher levels. Dongyue, you have an advantage over me. Remember to grasp every opportunity you have. If you fail in the end, the one you will disappoint will not be me, but yourself. Wenren Dongyue respectfully nodded. Take a good look. This is the fall of a star that could have illuminated an era. I hope that his death can become a stepping stone for you to ascend to the heavens. Chapter 412. Beneath the skies, the yin and yang energies converged to form a lake. With loud rumbles, it began to approach. Faint traces of black and white energy fused together, turning into a hazy blue color. In a way, this was chaos energy. In the legends, before the world was formed, the endless nothingness was filled with this sort of mystical strength that could evolve all things in the world. Of course, this hazy blue energy only contained a small portion of the chaos energy attribute. Ningling gripped her fists. The yin and yang energies began to fuse together. This was the sign that Qinyu had entered the 9th level of the primordial singular energy art. He had taken the final step and was beginning to attack the highest boundary. Looking at the speed at which the yin and yang energies fused together, his control was perfect. Up until now, he hadn't made a single mistake. This was already half the battle. The first step of fusing yin and yang energies was the most difficult. As long as he smoothly completed it, then as the two sides fused together more and more, a powerful inertia would form. This inertia would push the yin and yang energies to completely fuse together in a short period of time. Chinyu, you've done well. If you continue like this, you'll soon succeed. Bang! With a heaven-shaking rumble, the black and white lakes truly touched together. The edges of the lake violently trembled and then began to slowly fuse together. Everything proceeded smoothly. An hour later, the yin and yang energies had nearly fused together. Even with Ningling's indifferent personality, she couldn't help but reveal a hint of excitement. As long as he took another step forward and the yin and yang energies fused together, the inertia would gradually appear and the 9th level of the primordial singular energy art would be completed. But just as the black and white lakes were halfway fused together, there was a sudden tremor, as if a powerful repulsive strength were forming. Ningling stiffened and panic filled her eyes. Without waiting for her to respond, the fused yin and yang energies in the skies began to collapse and collapse. Purple Moon's complexion changed. She grabbed Ningling and drew back, appearing dozens of miles away. A black and white mushroom cloud rose up from Yu's seclusion. Space fluctuated, visible to the naked eye, and then, like a giant hand swiping past, everything within 10 miles was instantly turned to powder. Ningling watched helplessly as all of this occurred. All of the blood drained from her face and her body shivered. All that was left in her eyes was a deep despair. Yu failed. How could he fail? Purple Moon's complexion was heavy. Ningling, I am very sad that something like this occurred, but since it has already happened, I hope that you can hold on. Puff! Ningling spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body wavered and the light in her eyes rapidly dimmed. Purple Moon was shocked. She could feel the incomparably chaotic strength within Ningling's body that was on the verge of collapse. She lifted a hand and pointed several times, forcefully sealing away her cultivation. Ningling, you are insane. Quickly retract your strength, or you'll die. Honorable Master, cough cough. Yu has died, and this disciple does not wish to live alone. Please allow me to go with him. This disciple begs Honorable Master. Purple Moon hurriedly said, Good disciple, I know that you have deep feelings for Yu, but you don't even know why he died. Do you want to commit suicide? Seeing a flicker in Ningling's eyes, she continued to say, Think about it. Yu's cultivation of the primordial singular energy art has been incomparably smooth. Today, the yin and yang energies have fused together without any problems at all. He was halfway through, so how could he have suddenly failed? I suspect that someone tampered with it. Ningling clenched her teeth. I ask Honorable Master to bring me there. All right, Shua. The two of them instantly arrived at the area where the yin and yang energies had exploded. The outside world was still tumbling with a terrifying strength, but in front of Purple Moon, it wasn't able to touch them at all. It was just that, within the raging yin and yang energies outside, there was a faint trace of pure demonic energy. Purple Moon coldly said, Demonic path. That's right. They must know that Yu was brought back to my 9-heaven Mirror Moon Palace to cultivate the primordial singular energy art. The demonic path cannot sit idly by as a demon son who has cultivated the undying, true demon body joins my immortal sect. Thus, they must kill no matter the cost. Ningling, I have been negligent in this matter. I never thought that the demonic path would be so rampant as to kill people in my 9-heaven Mirror Moon Palace. But you can rest assured that I will give you an explanation for this matter. Ningling whispered. Demonic path. Her breathing deepened, a bone-chilling coldness in her eyes. Black fog lingered on a mountain peak. Now, Sunlight recklessly sprinkled down, easily scorching some of the black plants growing on the mountain peak to death. It was clear that a powerful protective array formation had condensed this black fog. Now, it had been torn to pieces and thoroughly destroyed. Flames burned. From deep within the palace, heaven-shaking rumbles echoed out, accompanied by the miserable screams of death. It was clear that a battle of annihilation was occurring here. Without warning, at the edge of a half-collapsed palace, space suddenly trembled. Then a crack split open. A figure bathed in blood, and with an extremely weak aura flew out from the spatial crack, falling into a mess. In the next moment, the spatial crack closed and vanished. High in the skies, a black-clothed old man suddenly frowned. He looked toward a certain part of the ruined palace. He seemed to have sensed a spatial fluctuation just now, but that place had already been sealed off by spells. It was impossible to activate a transmission array. Elder Wong, what is it? A cultivator beside him frowned. The black-clothed old man hesitated for a moment. It's nothing. Perhaps I sense wrong. He turned and coldly ordered, "Search. We must find a monster raising mystic art." An hour later, the disciples from all directions had gathered together, but none of them had found anything. Elder Wong sneered. "From the start of the operation, we have sealed off the space. There is no one from the giant monster sect that can escape. Someone must have hidden the monster raising mystic art somewhere. We cannot stay here for too long. Capture all the captives and thoroughly destroy the giant monster sect's entrance. Then, we can slowly interrogate them about the location of the monster raising mystic art." A moment later, a group of cultivators searched through the collapsed palace. The leading cultivator lifted a hand and pointed. "There's another one here. Take him away." The unconscious man that appeared from the spatial crack was violently taken away by several cultivators. He was thrown into a giant prison cart that howled into the skies. After another period of time, the ground shook with heaven-shaking rumbles. Raging flames erupted, covering the entire giant monster sect's entrance. Everything was burned to ashes, and all traces of the sect were destroyed. The endless darkness was like a heavy and icy sea, constantly submerging his consciousness. Although he didn't feel suffocated, he could feel endless fear and despair. After struggling for an unknown period of time, Qin Yu's consciousness finally regained a trace of clarity. He forced his eyes open and discovered that he was in a crowded and bumpy environment. The blinding light and the buzzing in his ears made it so that he couldn't see anything further away. Suddenly, the bumpy ground stopped. Qin Yu tumbled around, and his head struck something hard. With a loud bang, a sound passed through his skull and into his brain. His vision darkened, and he fell unconscious once more. "You giant monster sect trash, get out of here. I advise you not to have any thoughts. Otherwise, you will definitely hate your parents for allowing you to be born into this world. You pig, hurry up. If you dawdle any longer, it won't be as simple as a whip." Several purple-robed cultivators had evil expressions on their faces as they chased away the cultivators that came down from the prison cart. These people had their cultivations sealed away, and their faces were pale with fear. "There's another one? Don't pretend to be dead. Hurry up and get out of here. It looks like he really fainted. Fuck, if it weren't for the higher-ups saying that no one can die for no reason, I would have already fed him to the dogs. 2 people, carry him down and see how his injuries are. Don't let him die under our hands." 2 giant monster sect cultivators who were in slightly better condition carried Qin Yu, trembling with fear as they followed behind the long line of people towards the bottomless dungeon. "His injuries are heavy. He won't survive. Treat him. Do what you can. The higher-ups should be blaming us. Let's go." Then he felt a pill violently shoved in his mouth, and a stream of clear water gushed in. Qin Yu choked on his windpipe, but he couldn't even cough. When he regained consciousness a second time, he fell into darkness once more. When he woke up a third time, it was already 2 days later. His ears were filled with miserable screams. "I don't know. I really don't know. I beg you, please kill me. Just kill me. "You black demon sect bastard. If I can get out, I will definitely kill your entire family." There were men and women, all of them filled with pain and despair. Those with weaker wills would tremble just by listening to these words. Chinyu opened his eyes with difficulty. His blood-stained eyes were finally able to clearly see that he was in some sort of dungeon. The miserable screams in his ears and the pungent smells in the air indicated that his current situation wasn't good, but at least he was still alive. Thinking of this, Chinyu's eyes lit up with both joy and hatred. He took a deep breath, suppressing his tumbling thoughts. He constantly called out to Undying, but this strange summoned life form didn't respond at all. It was clear that its current condition wasn't too good. He probed with his mind. The Nine-Realm Holy Land Saint Sun token was normal, but his divine sense was sealed away and he couldn't activate it. He couldn't even summon Tuba or Tutu. For the time being, it seemed he could only rely on himself. Chinyu closed his eyes and began to inspect his condition. His body seemed to have been sealed with some sort of powerful spell. His originally withered magic power had been completely locked down, making it impossible for him to summon even the slightest bit of it. As for his injuries, Chinyu bitterly smiled. He was surprised that he was able to survive until now. His magic power had been sealed away. His mortal body had been severely wounded to the point of collapse, and he was unable to absorb the spiritual strength of the heavens and earth. Forget about recovering from such serious injuries. He feared they would gradually worsen until he finally died. This sort of condition wasn't something that an ordinary pill could save him from. He should have died in a coma. So how could he wake up? His cultivation was sealed, and he couldn't use his divine sense. But Chinyu focused his senses and faintly sensed two abnormalities. In his mind and Dantian Sea, there seemed to be two masses of strength. One was cold, and the other was warm, constantly releasing faint traces of strength that nourished his soul and body. Almost instantly, Chinyu thought of the purple moon in his soul space and the blue sun in his Dantian Sea. It seemed that the strength brought by these two things was currently alleviating his injuries. Unfortunately, this sort of recovery speed was far too slow. If he wanted to make a full recovery, he had no idea how much time it would take. Chinyu sighed inwardly. He opened his eyes, revealing a bit of helplessness. It was useless to think about these things right now. He could only take things one step at a time. Perhaps it was because his injuries were too heavy and he was worried that he wouldn't be able to withstand the interrogation and die. Thus, in the dungeon, all the cultivators were taken away to be tortured. Luckily, Chinyu hadn't been one of them. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. The Black Demon Sect cultivators who had restrained themselves during the interrogations had clearly become violent and cruel because they hadn't obtained any harvests. In a short 3 days, 17 giant monster sect cultivators had been turned into corpses. Then, in front of all the other prisoners, they were thrown into cages where they could only watch helplessly as their corpses were torn to shreds by hungry dogs. Chinyu didn't fear this sort of bloodshed, but he began to worry. The Black Demon Sect's actions were becoming increasingly cruel. He didn't have much time left. In a quiet room in the dungeon, although it had been cleaned up, it was still illuminated by a dim light. The smell of blood from 2 people filled the air. It's been a month, and we still haven't had any harvests. The sect lords are extremely dissatisfied. We need to speed things up. The thing must be here. I don't believe that they can resist our interrogation. All right, there's no need to say any more. Those people that were secretly selected should have watched a good show for so long. Their will should have loosened by now. Starting tomorrow, we can begin interrogating them. I will immediately arrange it. The person stood up and left, revealing a pale face. This person looked very young, and his fingers were clean and slender, without a speck of dust on them. Just where is it hidden? Haha, I'm a little interested now. A low and hoarse laugh echoed out in the quiet room, leaving one's hair standing on end. The interrogation continued. Finally, after another 7 days, the door to Chinyu's cage was violently pushed open. A Black Demon Sect cultivator's eyebrows arched up. I didn't think a brat like you would have such a tough life. You actually managed to survive such heavy injuries. Let me advise you, if you know anything, then hurry up and say it. Otherwise, you will regret being alive." He waved his hand. "Bring him out and send him to Lord Evil Ghost's interrogation room." Behind him, the pupils of the two black demon sect cultivators shrank, a bit of fear in them. Behind Chinyu, he clenched his fists within his sleeves. But in the next moment, he relaxed them. He put on a panic-stricken expression as he was carried away by the two black demon sect cultivators. After leaving the cage, they didn't walk too far before the leading black demon sect cultivator respectfully stopped outside an interrogation room. "Lord Evil Ghost, today's criminal has arrived." Send him in." A light voice echoed out. There was no ghastly or ghostly intent in it. Rather, there was a bit of warmth in it. But this warmth caused the complexions of the three black demon sect cultivators to change. The leading cultivator squeezed out a smile. "Yes." He turned and said, "You too, send him in." He had already flashed to the side. They cursed in their hearts, but at this time they didn't dare to hesitate. Otherwise, if they angered Lord Evil Ghost, they would all die. They pushed open the door in fear. What entered Chinyu's line of sight was a middle-aged man behind a plain wooden table. He wore pure white robes and was currently smiling as he sipped tea. His manner was calm, and his eyes were warm and gentle, giving him the appearance of a gentleman. "Oh, today's criminal seems pretty good." For some unknown reason, the eyes of the middle-aged man who was called Evil Ghost brightened. He put down his teacup and walked over. He approached Chinyu and sniffed him several times, excitement in his eyes. What a rich blood vitality. "Not bad, not bad." He rubbed his hands together. "You can all leave. If there isn't anything else, don't bother me for the next 2 days. If I can interrogate him and bring him in, I will inform you. If there isn't any result, you don't need to bother with him." The two black demon sect cultivators hurriedly excused themselves and closed the door behind them. Their eyes were filled with joy as well as sympathy. This giant monster sect remnant had actually caught the eye of Lord Evil Ghost. Whether or not he knew anything, his fate had already been decided. Thinking of that fate, even though they could be considered cruel and merciless people, they still couldn't help but shiver, fear filling their eyes. In the interrogation room, Evil Ghost grabbed onto Chinyu. Although his body seemed thin, his strength was astonishing. His hands were like iron hoops. "Brat, even if you know something, don't confess too easily. I want to have some fun today." With 2 deep chuckles, he picked up Chinyu and walked to a corner of the interrogation room. With a step, a hidden door opened and a thick smell of blood wafted out. Behind this hidden door was the true execution ground. All sorts of terrifying torture tools had been cleaned clean and hung on the walls. Beneath the bright spirit lamps, they shined with an icy cold metallic luster. In contrast, there was a thick layer of blood on the ground. It was several feet thick, and what was even more terrifying was that in this pile of blood, one could see some hair as well as some bone fragments of unknown origin. The wooden torture rack no longer had any trace of its original color. The bloodstains on its surface were still fresh. It was clear that the last person to be tortured hadn't been gone for too long. A wild dog was tied to a corner of the torture room. It was blind in one eye, and its fangs were yellow and incomplete. It was clear that it was very old, but the cruel and bloody light in its remaining eye left one's heart cold. At this time, the wild dog crawled up and began to spin around in circles. Its tail swung back and forth as it emitted low howls. Evil Ghost smiled. "You can also smell his scent. It really is good, isn't it? Don't worry. When have I ever eaten alone? There will definitely be a share for you." His eyes fell onto Chinyu's face, incomparably gentle. "Then let us begin." With a wave of his hand, Chinyu flew forwards. The chains on the torture rack automatically flew up and tightly fastened him to it. Evil Ghost licked his lips. "Originally, I like to play a little game before interrogating someone. But I don't know why, but when I face you, I find it unbearable. Then, let me have a taste of what you taste like first." He turned and looked around. Then, he took a knife from the corner of the wall. It was as thin as a cicada's wing. Evil Ghost walked to Qin Yu's side, and the knife fell down like lightning. Qin Yu's body shook, and a thin layer of flesh and blood was directly cut off from his arm. Evil Ghost held the knife in front of him and smelled the fresh flesh and blood. His throat rolled, and he placed the knife in his mouth, slowly chewing it. After several breaths of time, his eyes flashed open, filled with a burning heat and excitement. I have never seen such delicious blood energy before. It is so powerful that it makes my entire body tremble. Woo woo, the wild dog in the corner began to howl. Evil Ghost turned and angrily shouted, "Shut up." He licked the blood from the corners of his lips. He is mine. His entire body is mine. Don't think about dividing him. At most, I will give you a few bones with meat. Chapter 413. Qin Yu finally understood why this scholarly and gentle middle-aged man in front of him was called Evil Ghost. As he looked at the blood and flesh that leaked out from his mouth, killing intent surged in his heart. Wait, I know where the monster-raising mystic art is. Don't kill me. Qin Yu's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear. His body shivered, but there was no flaw in his words. Evil Ghost frowned. He forcefully suppressed his bloodthirsty desires and coldly snorted, "You had best not lie to me, otherwise my desire to eat will be affected and I will be in a bad mood." He laid down the knife. "Now you can speak." Qin Yu's voice trembled. "The monster-raising mystic art is where?" Evil Ghost subconsciously leaned closer to listen. The Black Demon sect hadn't hesitated to take risks and brazenly destroy the giant monster sect. From this, it could be seen just how much they value the monster-raising mystic art. If he could find it, that would be a great merit. The moment Evil Ghost approached, a cold light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. With a loud bang, the chains around his arms shattered and a fist smashed into his chest like a bolt of lightning. With a loud crackling sound, Evil Ghost's ribs shattered and his entire chest caved in. Evil Ghost's eyes widened and blood gushed out from every orifice of his head. His body flew backwards and smashed into the stone walls of the torture chamber. This place had clearly been supported by an array formation. Even after such a violent impact, there wasn't the slightest crack. Evil Ghost's eyes widened. He struggled to get up. Not too far away, there was an alarm bell on the wall. As long as he pressed it, someone would immediately come. But at this time, a foul wind blew past him. A wild dog in the corner howled and bit down on his neck. Then, it violently shook its head and tore apart a large piece of flesh, revealing a white windpipe and throat bone. Blood wildly gushed out from his blood vessels. The struggling Evil Ghost uttered several syllables with difficulty. Then his top body went limp, and he was dragged to the corner by the wild dog. Qin Yu's face was deathly pale. His body was completely devoid of strength. It was only because he was bound by chains that he didn't fall to the ground. This strike contained all of the strength he had accumulated. Now, it had affected his internal injuries, and he couldn't even move a finger. Qin Yu only had the strength to attack once. If it weren't for Evil Ghost expressing the terrifying thought of eating him alive, he would have rather endured the torture than rashly attack. But since he had already attacked, there was no point in thinking about this. Qin Yu closed his eyes and tried to calm his breathing. His ears were filled with the wild dog's excited howls and the sounds of flesh being torn and chewed. The air was filled with the smell of blood. This scene was like an Azura battlefield. Qin Yu's thoughts gradually blurred, and he fell asleep. After an unknown amount of time, of Qin, of him, he fell into a deep sleep. After a brief moment of confusion, his eyes regained focus. He looked at the wild dog that was violently struggling to break free from the chains. He frowned and muttered, "Your appetite is quite good." Evil had disappeared. All of him, of Ghost C. Qin Yu's lips twitched. This might be good news. At the very least, he would be able to live a little longer. The wild dog seemed to be frightened, and its violent struggle slowed down. But soon, this cruel beast discovered Qin Yu's weakness. It roared and probed. After determining that Qin you couldn't move, its eyes became even more bloodthirsty. It continued to struggle. The chains that it pulled on emitted loud banging sounds. The iron pillar that was inserted deep into the ground rubbed against the chains, causing sparks to fly out. Qin took a deep breath and closed his eyes once more. He was too weak right now. Even opening his eyes consumed a great deal of energy. In the torture chamber, the wild dog was spurred on by an increasingly intense hunger. It erupted with an even greater strength. Small cracks began to appear in the ground where the iron pillar was buried. According to this trend, it wouldn't be long before it would be able to pull out the iron pillar and enjoy a delicious feast of flesh and blood. Licking its lips, the wild dog howled and tried its best to rush outwards. But it was pulled back again and again by the taut iron chain, its bones creaking. More and more cracks appeared on the ground, and they became larger and larger. Suddenly, with a loud bang, an entire block of iron flew out from the rubble. The wild dog, whose neck hair had been polished off and whose flesh and blood had been torn apart by the iron chain, finally regained its freedom. It roared in excitement and leapt high into the air. It opened its stinking mouth and bit down at Qin Yu's neck. Countless hunting experiences told it that this was the weakest part of its prey. As long as it tore it open, a massive amount of sweet blood would flow into its mouth. Then, it could enjoy a meal of flesh and blood with ease. Shua! Qin Yu's eyes flashed open. With his free arm restored, he fiercely swung it like an iron pillar, sending the wild dog in front of him flying away. Gotcha! The wild dog's back snapped at an exaggerated angle. After its body crashed into the wall, it fell to the ground and turned into a pile of rotten meat. Qin Yu closed his eyes. It was like he had just been fished out of the water. His tattered robes were stuck to his body, soaked in sweat. He gasped for breath. Every time his chest rose and fell, it was like countless knives were slicing through it. The pain caused his consciousness to blur. At this time, the secret door leading to the torture chamber suddenly opened from the outside. A trembling voice sounded out. "Lord Evil Ghost, the monster raising mystic art has been found. Lord Su has other matters that he needs you to deal with." After waiting for a moment and not receiving any response, the Black Demon Sect cultivator summoned up his courage and walked into the torture chamber. Then he cried out in alarm. As Qin Yu heard this, he felt a wave of dizziness and he fell unconscious. But this unconsciousness was soon broken by ice water being poured over his head. Qin Yu coughed and woke up. "You were the one who killed Evil Ghost?" The young cultivator was fair and clean. He was trimming his clean and neat nails with a knife, his expression calm and indifferent. Qin Yu's first thought was that the Black Demon Sect's interrogators were all such perverts. Then his complexion turned ugly. This was because being eaten by someone wasn't a happy ending at all. The young cultivator smiled. "My name is Su Sheng, one of the stewards of the dungeon. You can call me Steward Su. Don't worry, I'm not a pervert like Evil Ghost who has no interest in eating human flesh. But I advise you to answer my question as soon as possible." Qin Yu didn't doubt that this person who could become a steward of the dungeon would have many despairing methods. He directly said, "I was the one who killed him." These words caused his ears to ring and his thoughts to tremble. His injuries weren't healed yet, and he had forcefully stimulated his mortal body to erupt twice in a row. His current condition was much worse than when he first entered the dungeon. Su Sheng smiled. "Very good. Since you were so straightforward, I won't waste any more time." He lifted his hand, and 5 knives howled into the air, each one circling around his fingertips. "Although Evil Ghost is a pervert, he is still my disciple. Since you killed him, I can't do nothing as his teacher. Evil Ghost likes to eat human flesh, but I like to dissect him. Don't worry, I will do my best to speed things up. An hour from now, you'll be free." Hum! The 5 knives hummed and released a faint silver light. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Su Sheng frowned and lightly said, "What is it?" "Steward Su, Grandmaster Yao from the Alchemy Chamber has sent someone here to find 10 people to test medicines. The dungeon is short on people right now, so we need you to make a decision." A cultivator outside respectfully said, Su Shang's pupils shrank. He waved his fingers, and the 5 humming knives gradually quietened down. He smiled and said, "Brat, your luck isn't bad. Since Grandmaster Yao wants people, whether or not you can live will depend on your luck. Come in, take this prisoner away, and hand him over to Grandmaster Yao." A black demon sect cultivator pushed open the door and entered. He held on to Qin Yu and respectfully bid his farewells. A moment later, Qin Yu and the other 9 prisoners were taken away from the dungeon. Among them was a white-haired and wrinkled cultivator. As he heard that he was going to test medicines for Grandmaster Yao, his originally dull eyes were instantly filled with fear. "I won't go. I won't go. I beg you, kill me, kill me. I won't test medicines." The miserable shrieks were filled with despair and fear, causing the bodies of the other test subjects to tremble. A black demon sect cultivator coldly shouted, "Make him shut up." Someone immediately punched out, breaking the prisoner's teeth and even shattering his tongue. The prisoner whimpered as he struggled, but he was dragged forwards, leaving behind a series of crimson footprints on the ground. Soon, 10 prisoners were brought to a remote courtyard. There were 10 iron cages in the courtyard, and several gloomy cultivators were waiting here. The black demon sect cultivator hurriedly said, "Everyone, we have brought the prisoners." Beside the iron cages, the blue-faced cultivator frowned. He gloomily said, "How come they're all old and weak? This sort of experimental data can't be counted at all. Your dungeon actually dares to disregard Grandmaster Yao's orders in such a perfunctory manner. I will definitely report you." The escorting cultivator bitterly smiled. "It's just that there's been a shortage of prisoners in the dungeon these past few days. It took a great deal of effort to gather these 10. As he spoke, he casually handed over a storage ring. "I asked Senior Apprentice Brother to put in a good word for us in front of Grandmaster Yao. Don't make things difficult for us poor little people." The blue-faced cultivator swept out his divine sense and took the storage ring. His complexion relaxed. "Since there is a reason, Grandmaster Yao should be able to understand. All right, it's getting late. Let's hurry up and begin." Yes, send the prisoners in. Hurry up." The escorting cultivator was overjoyed. He turned and shouted. Qin Yu was pushed into the cage. After the cage was closed, the blue-faced cultivator lifted a hand and took out a jade bottle. "Everyone, take a pill. Be obedient and eat it. It's best if you don't cause us any trouble." Qin Yu looked at the black pill in his palm, and his eyes flashed. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. There were many others who did the same. But there were also 3 people who struggled and cried, unwilling to cooperate at all. But soon, after these 3 people paid the price of a mouthful of blood and a mouthful of teeth, they swallowed the pill into their stomachs. As the pill fell into their stomachs, it quickly turned into an icy cold strength that penetrated through their flesh and blood and swept through their entire bodies. It was like they had fallen into an ancient cave of ice. Then, without any warning, this icy cold strength turned into countless icicles that pierced deep into their flesh and blood. Pitiful screams echoed through the entire courtyard. The escorting black demon sect cultivators had already retreated, leaving behind several blue-faced cultivators who were nervously observing the effects of the pill and making all sorts of detailed records. The moment the pain erupted, a warm current gushed out from Qin Yu's limbs and bones without warning. It wrapped around all of the toxins and poured them into his right index finger. After several breaths of time, all of the toxins were dispelled. Qin Yu's eyes lit up with joy. As he thought, even after the little blue lamp had transformed into a great sun, it was still able to maintain a connection with him, and dispelling toxins had always been its specialty. But on the surface, he continued to howl in pain in the cage, no different from the other 9 mortals who were testing the pill. Gradually, the miserable screams began to subside. Some people were barely alive, and some people had already turned into cold corpses. Chapter 414. Of the 10 prisoners, only 3 were still alive. Looking at how skillful these people were at checking, it was obvious that they had done this many times. Suddenly, a cry of alarm sounded. "Senior Brother Fei, come quickly." The azure-masked cultivator frowned. "What's with all the shouting?" The examining cultivator hurriedly said, "There's no poison in this prisoner's body at all. It's like he didn't eat any pills at all." Fei Jin's expression changed slightly. "Get out of the way." He squatted down and cut open Qin Yu's skin with his finger. He placed a drop of blood under his nose and sniffed it. His eyes brightened. With a flip of his hand, he took out a special round stone and smeared the blood on it. The blood was immediately absorbed by the round stone, but there was no reaction. Fei Jin's heart surged with excitement, but he maintained his composure. He said in a low voice, "This person's body is a bit strange. Continue to examine him here. I will bring him to see Grandmaster Yao." With that, he grabbed Qin Yu and strode out the door. After walking out of the courtyard, Fei Jin was unable to restrain his excitement any longer. He strode forward swiftly, and he soon arrived at a huge palace. There were spell fluctuations at the entrance of the hall. Fei Jin took out an iron tablet and shook it, causing a black light to shoot out. The spell immediately parted to the sides, and he rushed in without hesitation. He urgently said, "Grandmaster Yao, Fei Jin wishes to see you for an important matter." After a long while, a figure shrouded in a black robe and exuding a cold aura walked out from the depths of the great hall. His voice was sharp. "Fei Jin, you should know that when this old man is refining pills, no one is allowed to disturb him. Since you dare to barge in, you better give me a satisfactory answer." Fei Jin's body shook. If it weren't an urgent matter, this junior would not dare to disturb Grandmaster Yao. He carefully placed Qin Yu on the ground. "Grandmaster, please take a look. This junior suspects that this person is the one you have been searching for all this time, the one with the innate ability to purify all poisons." "What?" Grandmaster Yao shouted out loud. His figure flickered, and he arrived in front of Qin Yu. He grasped Qin Yu's wrist, and black energy gushed out, directly invading his body. One could clearly see black threads like a spider web appear from his wrist and rapidly spread throughout Qin Yu's body. But right at this moment, the spreading black threads began to rapidly melt as if they had encountered their natural enemy. Grandmaster Yao stuffily coughed. His palms emitted a sizzling sound as large tracts of flesh began to rot away. But his voice was filled with ecstasy. "Pure body. It really was a pure body. Ha, good, really good." Fei Jin quickly fell to his knees. "Congratulations, Grandmaster Yao. Congratulations, Grandmaster Yao." Grandmaster Yao laughed for a while and barely managed to calm his excited emotions. His eyes flickered as he said, "Who else knows about this besides you?" Fei Jin's heart skipped a beat, and he said honestly, "There are a few others who are from the same sect as me, Grandmaster, to help you test the medicine." Grandmaster Yao said indifferently, "Fei Jin, since you can find a pure body, I will keep my promise and give you a chance to become my disciple." Fei Jin was overjoyed and repeatedly bowed his head. Disciple greets teacher. From now on, I will be loyal and devoted and will never be disloyal. Grandmaster Yao smiled. "Very good. Now, go and bring your fellow disciples here. They are considered to have done a meritorious deed, so I will reward them accordingly." Fei Jin said respectfully, "Yes, teacher. I will go now." After Fei Jin left, Grandmaster Yao quickly squatted down. He pointed a finger at Qin Yu's body and furrowed his eyebrows. His injuries are actually so serious. But luckily, this person's foundation isn't bad. He should be able to recover with a bit of effort. With a flick of his sleeves, an invisible strength wrapped around Qin Yu. Grandmaster Yao turned and walked deep into the hall. He opened several hidden doors, and after many twists and turns, he arrived at an absolutely hidden chamber. He placed Qin Yu on a stone bed. This stone bed was very strange. It was incomparably cold, but this cold strength wouldn't harm a cultivator. Rather, it could suppress internal injuries and even speed up the recovery of the mortal body. Grandmaster Yao lifted a hand and pointed between his eyebrows. A blood-red chain stretched out from between his eyebrows. If one looked carefully, they would discover that this chain was formed from countless tiny runes and emitted extremely cryptic fluctuations of strength. Pulling out the blood-red chain seemed to cause a great deal of damage to him. Grandmaster Yao paled and his eyes dimmed. He lifted a hand, and the blood-red chain instantly fused into Qin Yu's body. In the next moment, Qin Yu's mortal body's injuries began to recover at an astonishing speed. It was as if the blood-red chain contained an incomparably formidable strength. Grandmaster Yao sneered. I know you've woken up, but I must remind you to behave yourself, otherwise you won't like the consequences. As he spoke, his thoughts stirred. On the stone platform, Qin Yu's eyes shot open. His body tensed, and blue blood vessels protruded from beneath his skin. He was in excruciating pain. Humph! Grandmaster Yao lightly said, This is only a small punishment. Don't try anything. With just a thought, I can make you suffer a fate worse than death. Now, you should behave yourself and stay here. Once I finish dealing with some trivial matters, I will come and have a good chat with you. Grandmaster Yao turned and left. On the stone platform, Qin Yu frowned. He closed his eyes and sensed his surroundings for a long time. A strange light flashed in his eyes. This time, it seemed he had obtained a blessing in disguise. Indeed, after being unlucky for so long, his luck had finally begun to turn. After determining that there wouldn't be any problems for the time being, Qin Yu closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. During this time, although he had fallen asleep many times, his subconscious had been tense and his mind was exhausted. Now that he relaxed, he soon fell into a deep sleep. Grandmaster Yao was filled with excitement. He took several deep breaths before he barely managed to calm himself down. I never thought I would find a pure body in this black demon sect. The heavens really haven't forsaken me. However, there are still some loose ends to this matter. I must completely deal with them before I can prepare with peace of mind. Soon, Grandmaster Yao returned to the main hall. After waiting for a moment, Fei Jin arrived with several black demon sect cultivators. Greetings, Grandmaster Yao. Fei Jin bowed first. Grandmaster Yao revealed a look of appreciation. This boy was quite clever. He faintly smiled and said, Today, you have found a very good candidate for me to test my medicine. He will be of help to me when I refine pills. I am a fair person when it comes to rewards and punishments. The reason I had Fei Jin bring you here is to give you some rewards. He flicked his sleeves, and several jade boxes fell in front of everyone. These are Star God pills. They were refined by me using many treasures and contain the blood essence of a jade toad. They can greatly increase the intensity of your mortal bodies. Fei Jin respectfully bowed in thanks. He opened the jade box and took out a pill, swallowing it down. With him as an example, the other Black Demon Sect cultivators didn't dare to reveal any doubts, even though they had some doubts in their hearts. They all obediently swallowed the pill. Grandmaster Yao's smile widened. The medicinal efficacy of this pill will spread out slowly. You can all refine it here. His eyes fell on Fei Jin. Come here. There are some things I need you to do. Fei Jin hurriedly nodded and ran to catch up. The Black Demon Sect cultivators all revealed looks of envy. As they thought about how Fei Jin had brought this person here, he would definitely obtain the most benefits. Jealousy filled their hearts. Honorable Master. Fei Jin respectfully bowed, a bit nervous. Grandmaster Yao lightly said, It seems you have good eyesight. He took out a pill and tossed it to him. Eat it. Fei Jin swallowed the pill and felt a warm current spread through his body. His spirits rose, and he quickly bowed. Thank you, Honorable Master, for your generous gift. Grandmaster Yao said, If you work hard, I won't treat you unfairly. Later, clean up the hall. If there is any trouble afterwards, just say that they angered me and I personally killed them. The high-level figures of the Black Demon Sect won't make things difficult for you. Yes, Honorable Master. Fei Jin bowed. When the sound of Grandmaster Yao's footsteps faded away, he looked up, excitement in his eyes. He had already heard that although Grandmaster Yao was ranked near the bottom of the sect's several alchemy grandmasters, his origins were extremely mysterious. Even the high-level figures of the sect dreaded him. Now it seemed that this was true. Otherwise, even if he was an alchemy grandmaster of the Black Demon sect, he wouldn't have dared to casually execute these sect disciples. Fei Jin secretly shook his head. Among these cultivators, there were some that had a close relationship with him, and he was able to order them around. Unfortunately, Grandmaster Yao had already decided to silence them, so there was nothing he could do. He might sympathize with them, but even more than that, this was fate. There was no one to blame. After all, if their statuses were reversed, Fei Jin felt that they would also sell him out without hesitation. As he walked back to the front hall, he could already hear pained howls. Fei Jin sighed. He stood where he was for a moment, waiting for all the sounds to disappear. Then he stepped in. The several Black Demon sect cultivators didn't even have their bones left. They had turned into puddles of incomparably smelly mucus on the ground. Fei Jin was expressionless. He first took away their storage rings and then waved his hand. Wood powder fell onto the mucus on the ground, and it rapidly swelled up. In the blink of an eye, the ground was completely clean without a single smell left behind. He flicked his finger, and a black flame fell onto the swollen wood powder. It immediately began to burn, turning everything into ashes. All traces of these people in the world had been thoroughly erased. Fei Jin hurriedly left Grandmaster Yao's dwelling. He reported that several disciples had offended him and were killed by Grandmaster Yao. As he looked at the gloomy external affairs elder across from him, he couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. But soon, he received a reply. Looking at the external affairs elder subconsciously open his mouth, Fei Jin felt a burst of excitement. He had really latched onto the right thigh. And at this time, Grandmaster Yao had already returned to the chamber where Qin Yu was. He lightly said, "I'm obsessed with researching the Tao of poisons. I need to conduct a massive amount of experiments to obtain data to aid in my pill research. But this method has a high cultivation requirement for the person testing the medicine, and the consumption is far too great. But your appearance will change this situation." Grandmaster Yao continued to say, "Help me research pills, and I guarantee that in 10 years at most, I will return your freedom. I might even take you in as a disciple and give you a good future. Otherwise, this old man has many ways to destroy your consciousness and turn you into a walking corpse." He cupped his hands together and bowed. Disciple Ning Qin greets teacher. Grandmaster Yao paused for a moment and then laughed. "Not bad. You are indeed worth teaching. Since that's the case, I will accept you as my disciple. Disciple, your body is weak right now. Rest well first. Once your body recovers, it won't be too late to help teacher test medicines." Qin Yu respectfully said. Disciple obeys. Grandmaster Yao clapped his hands, and a beautiful maid walked out. But she didn't have the slightest aura of life. She was only a refined puppet. "Take Ning Qin away and arrange a place for him to stay. Ning Qin, this place is filled with toxic poisons. Don't casually walk around to avoid any accidents. I will provide you with everything you need to recover from your injuries. You just need to rest and recover in peace." Qin Yu's face was filled with gratitude. "Thank you, teacher. Young Master Ning Qin, please follow me." The puppet maid spoke out in a pleasant but hollow voice. Chapter 4:15. Immortal Sect. Purple Moon furrowed her eyebrows, as if she were thinking of something. At this time, faint ripples appeared in the space in front of her. Han Qingping's phantom walked out. He cupped his hands together and smiled. "Greetings, great elder." "Humph, what are you doing here?" Purple Moon asked without expression. Han Qingping's smile didn't diminish. "Now that the great calamity has been eliminated, I have come to remind Great Elder that our agreement should begin." Purple Moon's eyes were icy cold. "I naturally won't go back on my word. But do you think Ning Ling has the mind to care about such things right now?" Her voice slowed down and became increasingly indifferent. Every syllable was filled with a thick chill. "I don't need you to remind me, and I also don't want you to threaten me with your words today. Do you understand?" Han Changping cupped his hands together. "How could I dare to threaten Great Elder? It's just that my heart is restless. Since I obtained Great Elder's promise, I will patiently wait." He took a step back and continued to say, "Since that's the case, I will no longer disturb Great Elder's rest. I bid my farewells here." Just as he was about to leave, his complexion suddenly changed. Across from him, Purple Moon's eyes shook and she vanished from sight. Outside the stone chamber, Purple Moon's figure appeared. She flicked her sleeves and shattered the stone door, flying straight in. Ning Ling sat down cross-legged. At this time, her aura was in chaos and a wild strength was tearing apart her body. Her boundary was about to collapse, and she would suffer a backlash from cultivation deviation soon. "Ning Ling, what are you doing?" Purple Moon shouted out loud. She lifted a hand and forcefully suppressed her cultivation that had gone out of control. Ning Ling opened her eyes, her expression empty and faint. "Honorable Master, this disciple wishes to take revenge for Qin Yu, but I cannot control my heart. Every time I think of him dying, I feel despair towards this world. The longer I live, the more pain I have to endure. This pain is almost tearing my heart apart. I beg, teacher, please do not save me. Let me follow Qin Yu in death and be free from this." Purple Moon's face was filled with anger. "What nonsense! Ning Ling, wake up for me. Qin Yu is already dead. Do you want to kill yourself for a dead person? Even if you don't take revenge, have you forgotten that person beneath Torment Pagoda? She already knows that you have arrived and is looking forward to meeting you." Ning Ling bitterly smiled. In truth, this disciple has already begun to regret leaving the land of exiles and coming to the immortal sect. I had never seen my mother before, so my memories of her were completely blank. For her, I had abandoned Qin Yu and had already let him down once. But now, Qin Yu chased me all the way to the land of divinity and demons. For me, he didn't hesitate to take the risk of cultivating the primordial singular energy art, and in the end he gave up his life. I have worked hard for my mother. I've tried everything I could to repay her for giving birth to me in the past. But I will forever owe Qin Yu a debt I will never have the chance to repay. Now, all I want to do is accompany Qin Yu as he leaves this world. Perhaps he is somewhere, waiting in despair for me. At this point, her eyes flashed with anticipation and determination. Like an arrow, it pierced through Ziyu's heart. She never imagined that Ning Ling's feelings would be so deep. All of her preparations were useless. Han Qingping's avatar appeared behind Ning Ling. He lifted a hand, and she closed her eyes, falling unconscious. Purple Moon angrily shouted, "What are you doing?" Han Qingping fluttered backwards, avoiding the wild strength that surged towards him. He said, "I'm only letting her sleep for a while. Otherwise, there is no way for us to talk." After a pause, he continued to say, "Great Elder, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but Ning Ling has already decided to die. You can save her once, twice, or even 3 times, but will you be able to stay by her side every day?" Purple Moon coldly said, "What method do you have?" Han Qingping said, "I remember that in 9 Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, there is a supreme, soul-sealing treasure that can extract a cultivator's memories and seal them within." Purple Moon's complexion changed. "You want me to erase Ning Ling's memories? This is the only way to save her. If she forgets, she naturally won't be heartbroken, and she definitely won't commit suicide." Han Qingping's eyes flashed. After experiencing these twists and turns, although Ning Ling has lost her memories, her mind has been tempered. There is an extremely high chance she will be able to cultivate 9 Heaven Mirror Moon Palace's strongest cultivation method, the Sublime Lost Emotion Code. Purple Moon was silent for a long time. Then, she flicked her sleeves and brought Ning Ling away. She stepped forwards and shot into the skies. 3 months later, a white-clothed female cultivator walked out from the gates of Purple Moon Palace. A gentle breeze blew past her, causing her dress to flutter in the wind like a fairy. She looked up at the bright sun in the skies and narrowed her beautiful eyes. Shen Yuanin, even this name feels strange to me. It's like I've been dreaming for a very, very long time, and now that I've awoken from my dream, I've forgotten many of the stories I experienced in my dream, but what I've forgotten shouldn't exist. It was only a dream, so let it be. Greetings, Senior Apprentice, Sister Yuanine. Several female cultivators respectfully bowed as they passed. Shin Yuanine nodded. She stepped on the void and flew away. After several flashes, she flew away from the mountain. In the next moment, black clouds surged out from the skies. Countless bolts of lightning appeared, and rumbling sounds filled the heavens. Shin Yuanine looked up, her eyes indifferent and without expression. She lifted a hand and grasped forwards. A pure white sword appeared, and she slashed towards the heavens. Thunder trembled, and the thunder that filled the skies vanished. In the next moment, the endless black clouds were split in half. They were incomparably neat, as if they had been cut in half by a single sword strike. Sunlight sprinkled down and bathed Shun Yuanine in it. She was like a goddess descending from the highest heavens. Her dress fluttered without wind, and her aura rose at an astonishing speed. She instantly broke through the limit and stepped into the blue sea realm. But her rise didn't stop until she reached the fourth level of the blue sea realm. Only then did she slowly calm down. A loud voice sounded out, echoing through the entire immortal sect. Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace disciple Shin Yuanine has broken through to the blue sea realm. She will be conferred the title of Young Palace Master. Her status will be revered and endless, and she will be worshipped by 1,000,000,000,000 lives. Greetings, Young Palace Master Shun Yuanine. Countless immortal sect cultivators fell to their knees, all of them expressing their awe towards this peerless figure that stood in the skies. Qin Yu's mind fluctuated. He opened his eyes from his cultivation. He frowned, but he couldn't find a reason. He slowly suppressed the confusion in his heart and sensed his current condition. A smile lifted the corners of his lips. He had to say that this cheap master grandmaster, Yao, had been extremely diligent in helping him collect treasures. Even with such a serious injury, he had nearly completely recovered in a short 3 months. But what a pity he didn't have good intentions. Moreover, Qin Yu had experienced this before. Thinking of Purple Moon, an icy cold, killing intent flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. His memories returned to the past. He had been preparing to rush into the 9th level of the primordial singular energy art in a single go. Everything had been going smoothly, but at the critical moment when he revolved his cultivation method, his mind had gone blank. It wasn't that he had been absent-minded, but that the revolutions of the primordial singular energy art had suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, the yin and yang energies that had been peacefully fused together had gone completely out of control. In that moment, Qin Yu was suddenly enlightened. The primordial singular energy art that Purple Moon had given him was incomplete to begin with. In other words, the so-called helping him cultivate and reversing the undying true demon body had been nothing but a lie from start to finish. The yin and yang energies had gone out of control. A terrifying destructive strength had been enough to instantly tear Qin Yu to pieces. If it weren't for undying suddenly helping him repair the incomplete primordial singular energy art, and then using some unknown method to tear apart space, he would have already turned to ashes. Thinking of this, Qin Yu felt even more hatred towards Purple Moon and the immortal sect. In particular, he thought of Ning Ling. Seeing the yin and yang energies being destroyed outside, she must have thought that he had died. With Ning Ling's feelings for him, she must have been in so much pain that she wished she were dead. The only thing that left Qin Yu at ease was that since Purple Moon dared to scheme against him, she must have made a backup plan ahead of time to ensure Ning Ling's safety. Immortal sect. Qin Yu took a deep breath, suppressing his icy, killing intent. In front of that colossus, he was as weak as an ant. In a short period of time, it was impossible for him to take revenge, and he definitely couldn't expose himself in front of the immortal sect. Otherwise, in order to silence him, the immortal sect would not hesitate to pay any price to kill him so that Ning Ling wouldn't know the truth. Purple Moon had taken a roundabout route, not hesitating to spend countless treasures to send him into a desperate situation. This meant that the immortal sect valued Ning Ling far more than he originally thought. Humph. Unfortunately, no matter how they schemed, the people of the immortal sect never imagined that Undying had actually grasped the complete primordial singular energy art. Not only had he not died, but he had actually successfully cultivated the primordial singular energy art. There would be a day when he would return to the immortal sect and tell Ning Ling everything. Then, together with her, they would make the entire immortal sect pay the price. There was a knock on the door. Qin Yu composed himself and said, "Come in." The puppet maid pushed open the door, a warm smile on her face. "Young Master Qin Yu, Grandmaster Yao requests your presence." Qin Yu looked at the beautiful but lifeless maid in front of him, a trace of pity in his eyes. This sort of lifelike puppet was originally refined from a living person, and the process was incomparably painful. After the refinement was completed, the puppet's soul would still remain, but it would be controlled by someone else for the rest of its life. In particular, the one it served was the person who refined it into a puppet. It had to suffer constant torment. The pain was unimaginable. "I understand. Wait outside the door for a moment." The puppet maid respectfully nodded and left. Qin Yu stood up, a cold sneer on his face. Seeing that his injuries were nearly healed, he really had lost his patience. "Then, I'll deal with you first." Qin Yu straightened his robes and pushed open the door. "Let's go." The puppet maid led the way. Qin Yu discovered that she seemed to want to say something, but in the end she remained silent. A moment later, the two of them arrived at the chamber that Qin Yu had been placed in. Grandmaster Yao was sitting cross-legged on a stone bed. He opened his eyes and faintly smiled. "My good disciple, your body should have recovered by now, right?" Qin Yu cupped his hands together. "I must thank Honorable Master for providing me with so many treasures." As if his goal was about to be achieved and everything was within his grasp, Grandmaster Yao cackled several times. "There is no need to thank me. I also have a goal for helping you. As long as you properly repay me, that will be enough." Qin Yu smiled. "I wonder, how does Honorable Master want this disciple to repay you?" Grandmaster Yao's laughter became even sharper. "Simple. Offer your soul and body to me." He flicked his sleeves, and a layer of light lit up, blocking out the entire chamber. Chapter 416. In the corner of the chamber, the puppet maid revealed a look of struggle, but it quickly turned into pain. She let out a muffled groan and lowered her head, grief filling her eyes. She had been personally refined into a puppet by Grandmaster Yao and had followed by his side for all these years. She had been used as a tool to vent his frustrations. After others learned that she was a puppet, they also treated her with indifference, as if she were nothing more than a tool. Only Qin Yu, although he hadn't had much contact with her, had always regarded her as a normal person. Unfortunately, her life was being controlled, and she could only watch helplessly as he was harmed. After waiting for so many years, I have finally found a pure body that can dispel the soul curse. I will be reborn, and I will take back everything I lost. With a loud shout, the black light that shot out from Grandmaster Yao's eyes vanished, drilling into Qin Yu's eyes. His pitch-black eyes dimmed, and his aura dissipated. And at this time, the true battle occurred in Qin Yu's soul space. All of the dark light gathered there, forming an incomparably old figure. This was Grandmaster Yao's true self. He looked at Qin Yu's soul that had its eyes closed and the blood-red chains that wrapped around it. He let out a strange and smug cackle and threw himself at it. As long as he swallowed Qin Yu's soul and fused with all of his aura, he could obtain the recognition of his mortal body and thoroughly control it. But at this time, Qin Yu's soul suddenly opened its eyes. As it looked at the approaching Grandmaster Yao, its lips curved up in a mocking smile. Grandmaster Yao was shocked. Then he viciously smiled. "It's useless. You can't resist at all." "Really?" With a thought, a crescent purple moon appeared above his soul. It sprinkled down a pale purple light that covered the blood-red chains. This object was formed from countless blood-colored symbols. Now that it was enveloped by the purple moonlight, all of the symbols suddenly stiffened, frozen by an invisible power. Chinyu lightly said, "Everything should end now." Whoosh! A beam of purple moonlight shot out, instantly piercing through Grandmaster Yao's soul. With a miserable cry, his soul exploded into countless fragments. In the chamber, a wisp of dark light escaped from Chinyu's eyes, rapidly escaping into Grandmaster Yao's mortal body like a bolt of lightning. Grandmaster Yao's body trembled as he regained his senses, fear filling his eyes. "Quick! Activate the alarm. This kid wants to kill me." Shua. Chinyu lifted a finger and pointed it between Grandmaster Yao's eyebrows. A transparent hole appeared and red and white matter splashed out. The dark light flew out, wanting to escape. But in the blink of an eye, it was sucked into Chinyu's eyes. Faintly, one could hear Grandmaster Yao's roars of despair and unwillingness. Chinyu let out a long breath. He thought to himself that it was a close call. He never thought that Grandmaster Yao would have such strange methods. In that sort of environment, he was actually able to escape. He turned and looked at the puppet maid in the corner. Her eyes were filled with relief. She faintly smiled at Chinyu and then fell backwards, her aura rapidly dissipating. When the master died, the puppet would die with him. But just now, she clearly had the chance to activate the alarm. But after Master Yao screamed, she kept silent. He cupped his hands together towards the puppet maid's corpse. "I don't know your name, but I must thank you for today's matter." He stood up and waved his hand. Grandmaster Yao's robes flew over and fell into his hands. This robe was cool to the touch, and its surface was clean without a single speck of blood. It was a good treasure robe. As Chinyu wore the black robe, he suddenly exuded a much more gloomy aura. He was overjoyed. It seemed that Grandmaster Yao had also used this treasure robe to change his aura. This would save him a great deal of trouble. Chinyu's bones crackled. With a loud crackling sound, Chinyu's body shrank, and his appearance became exactly the same as Grandmaster Yao's. He took several steps in place, carefully recalling Grandmaster Yao's actions. Soon, the way he walked became vivid and lifelike. That's right, before he killed Grandmaster Yao, Chinyu had already thought of his next plan. Grandmaster Yao had an eccentric personality and rarely came into contact with outsiders. In the Black Demon sect, he only had a single disciple, and they rarely came into contact. This gave Chinyu a chance to substitute himself. After killing Grandmaster Yao, he would disguise himself as him and then look for a chance to quietly leave the Black Demon sect. This was Chinyu's original plan. But after swallowing Grandmaster Yao's soul, Chinyu learned many things. One of these things was that the Black Demon sect belonged to one of the 13 branches of the demonic path. After a short period of thought, Chinyu decided to change his plan. He would continue to stay in the Black Demon sect with the identity of Grandmaster Yao. This was because if he wanted to retaliate against the immortal sect, he would have to rely on his own strength to do so. But the demonic path was a transcendent influence that could stand toe-to-toe with the immortal sect in the land of divinity and demons. If he joined the Black Demon sect and waited for a chance to enter the demonic path in the future, he would have a chance to borrow the strength of the demonic path to make the immortal sect pay the price. Moreover, he had cultivated the undying, true demon body, so joining the demonic path was the best choice to begin with. There was a high chance that he would be valued. At that time, not only would he be able to be raised, but his own safety would also be guaranteed. Of course, before he had enough strength, Chinyu absolutely could not reveal his identity. As for how long he could stay in the Black Demon sect without being discovered, Chinyu faintly smiled. He said in a soft voice, "Grandmaster Yao, I really must thank you." By swallowing his soul, Chinyu naturally obtained all of his memories. This Grandmaster Yao's name was Yao Kuo, and he was a wandering old demon cultivator. At his peak, he had a powerful 6th level blue sea cultivation. Unfortunately, after refining some forbidden pill, he suffered a mysterious curse that invaded his soul. After that, he struggled to survive for over 1,000 years. His cultivation fell, and he was betrayed by his subordinates. In fact, Grandmaster Yao was a true Grandmaster-level existence when it came to alchemy in the demonic path. According to his memories, when he was at his peak, he had even helped the Calamity Immortal Realm existence refine pills. That Calamity Immortal Realm existence had gifted him a powerful treasure as repayment. Unfortunately, when he was betrayed, the treasure had been taken away by his subordinates. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy for Qin Yu to kill him. These were all minor details. What was important was that after swallowing Grandmaster Yao's soul, all of Grandmaster Yao's lifetime of alchemy had become Qin Yu's. The demonic path's alchemy methods had opened his horizons. So pills could also be refined from a living being's flesh and blood, essence, inner core, and so on. It could be said that although Qin Yu hadn't refined any pills of the demonic path, he was already a theoretical Grandmaster-level demon. As long as he experimented a few times, then with the little blue lamp and Ninth Province furnace in hand, disguising himself as Grandmaster, Yao wouldn't be a problem at all. Qin Yu flicked his fingers and a fireball appeared, burning Grandmaster Yao's corpse to ashes. Then, he temporarily put away the puppet maid's corpse and sat down cross-legged on the stone bed. Although he had obtained Grandmaster Yao's memories, they still didn't belong to Qin Yu. He needed to look through them in order to ensure that nothing unexpected happened. In particular, he needed to carefully ponder the alchemy portion of the memories before he could use them for himself. Fei Jin had an anxious expression. He paced back and forth in the hall. He didn't know what Grandmaster Yao was doing, but he knew it was an incomparably important matter. Over 10 days had passed, and there hadn't been any movement at all. How could he not be worried? If something were to happen to Grandmaster Yao, then all of his previous efforts would have been wasted. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed out from deep within the hall. Fei Jin was overjoyed. He fell to his knees. Disciple greets Honorable Master. He was familiar with these footsteps. It was Grandmaster Yao. Qin Yu looked at the humble Fei Jin on the ground, his eyes cold. This person had forced them to test medicines, and his methods were ruthless to the extreme. Moreover, this Fei Jin was the only black demon sect cultivator that had come into contact with Grandmaster Yao. It could be said that he was the greatest uneasy factor in Qin Yu's disguise. The sooner he eliminated him, the better. His thoughts stirred. Qin Yu pretended to be Grandmaster Yao and coldly said, "You came just in time. I have something I need you to do." As he spoke, he turned and walked away. Fei Jin's heart skipped a beat. Grandmaster Yao seemed to be in a bad mood. He didn't dare to delay and quickly followed. Soon, Grandmaster Yao stopped outside a chamber. "Take away the corpse inside and carefully deal with it. Don't let anyone see it." Fei Jin was startled. It was just a corpse. Did he need to do anything? Doubt flashed in his mind. Fei Jin didn't dare to anger Grandmaster Yao while he was in a bad mood. Although they were master and disciple, Grandmaster Yao was a temperamental person. It was best to be a bit more cautious. Fei Jin respectfully bowed and walked into the chamber. He was startled. Besides a stone bed, there was no corpse at all. His heart skipped a beat. Just as he was about to turn around, he discovered that the entire chamber had been sealed off by the strength of an array formation. Fei Jin was panic-stricken. "Honorable Master, what is the meaning of this? This disciple has always been loyal and devoted to you." Qin Yu coldly sneered. "Say those words to Grandmaster Yao in the underworld." Fei Jin had a panic-stricken expression. "It's you, save me. Save me." Black poison gas gushed out from a corner of the chamber. Fei Jin held his breath, but it was clearly useless. Soon, he fell to the ground, twitching. His face was covered with purple spots, and his body swelled up. Finally, with a loud bang, he exploded. As the stench of corpse fluid touched the air, it began to burn until not a single ash was left behind. Qin Yu coldly snorted. He didn't feel any mercy towards this person's fate. It was unknown just how many innocent lives had been stained by Fei Jin's hands. Those who killed should be killed by others. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yu had already used Grandmaster Yao's identity to live in the Black Demon sect for over 2 months. He intentionally kept a low profile And in addition to Grandmaster Yao's originally eccentric personality, there weren't any problems. It was just that in the dungeon, the cruel and savage Grandmaster Yao hadn't experimented with any prisoners in 2 months, so they were puzzled. Of course, no matter how much courage they had, they still wouldn't dare to ask why. In the alchemy room, Qin Yu lifted a hand and slapped the ninth province furnace. This pill furnace that seemed tattered but actually possessed heaven-defying functions opened on its own. 7 blood-red pills were wrapped in an invisible strength and flew out from the mouth of the pill furnace. Unfortunately, just as 3 of them flew out, they flew back into the ninth province furnace. With several chewing sounds, they vanished without a trace. Qin Yu bitterly smiled. The ninth province furnace's habit of intercepting pills hadn't changed. Now, its attitude was a bit better. At the very least, it would let him take a look at how many pills he had refined. With a wave of his hand, he took the remaining 7 blood-red pills. He lowered his head and sniffed them. Then his lips curled up in a satisfied smile. Spirit Blood Pill, a 6th-grade demonic pill. It could supplement a cultivator's blood vitality and also had the effect of strengthening the mortal body. This was also the reason why Qin Yu was an alchemy master to begin with. In addition to the ninth province furnace, it was impossible for anyone else to refine a 6th-grade demonic pill in 2 months. It had to be known that there were differences between memories and things one possessed. He casually put away the spirit blood pills and then closed his eyes for a moment. Then, he flipped his palm and a jade bottle appeared. This was the blood marrow he obtained from the Infinite Realm. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.